Chapter 1898. Now thinking about it, the previous life's exile itself was very suspicious. If combined with the experience in this life, there must be a problem with this Sima Fei. In the previous life, there was 1,000 years of demonic tribulation in the spiritual realm, and there were also devils in the immortal realm. Although Yang Chun didn't know what happened later, he didn't know if these two things were related. If the demon continent and immortal world was added, it seemed that there was a problem in the three realms. Yang Chun didn't know if this speculation was reasonable, but Sima Fei was definitely not a good person, and even the Holocaust sect was now very suspicious. The sect master didn't die earlier or later, but he died at this time. The possibility of a man-made accident was too high. Fanghua, be careful of the Holocaust sect when you go back. Now Yang Chun hadn't recovered his cultivation, and he didn't intend to appear in front of everyone before the demonic tribulation was completed, so he could only remind Lady Fanghua. The courtyard of Yin-Yang Demon School was now too close to the Holocaust sect. Yang Chun was also afraid that if there was any change in the Holocaust sect, it would affect Lady Fanghua's sect. Lady Fanghua and her female apprentices didn't disobey Yang Chun's instructions at all, and they all agreed. For the time being, this was the relatively new news that Lady Fanghua brought, and the rest were small things. It was nothing more than a place that was conquered, which sect had a few famous masters or something. As the saying goes, heroes only show their true colors in the turbulent sea. In the raging of the beastkin tide, a large number of masters who seemed to be unknown before also emerged. They stood proudly among the heroes in the war to kill the beastkin. Yang Chun's wives and concubines were the most obvious example. It was impossible for Yang Chun's wives and concubines to be the only masters in the world. These masters who emerged had almost become the new force to reclaim the lost land. They had been charging at the forefront of killing the beastkin. It could be said that they had made great contributions to the reclaiming of the territory. Madame Fanghua's cultivation base has been improved, and she has reached the 8th grade of the Earth Immortal realm. The worst of the maids also has the cultivation base of the 6th grade of the Earth Immortal realm. All of these were caused by Yang Chun's last dissipation. In addition to the hundreds of years of cultivation refining and the experience of fighting with the monsters, they have thoroughly refined Yang Chun's spiritual power and more refined. As the great elder of Yin-Yang Demon School, Lady Fanghua couldn't disappear for too long, lest the sect misunderstand her. Therefore, after spending a year with Yang Chun in the Dragon Palace, Lady Fanghua and the maids bid farewell to him reluctantly and turned to the killing field of evil beasts. After bidding farewell to Lady Fanghua, Yang Chun continued with his recovery training. The Dragon Palace was located on the immortal spiritual vein. The originally abundant spiritual vein was overflowing, and Yang Chun's cultivation was smooth. After all, it was a recultivation. Strictly speaking, it was the 3rd cultivation. There were many detours that he didn't have to detour at all. With the powerful golden body secret art, combined with a huge amount of merits, he directly rushed through all kinds of checkpoints, and there was a feeling of irresistible force in his cultivation. During this period, Yang Chun also met with Lan Ying, who returned to the Hatred Sea to recuperate. Lan Ying was also a ferocious character. She slaughtered the demon beasts on the battlefield. This time, she accidentally encountered 3 celestial immortal level demon beasts alone. After killing one, she was injured by the other 2, so she returned to the Hatred Parting Sea to recuperate. Originally, Lan Ying planned to recover here in the immortal spiritual vein, but she met Yang Chun. Naturally, with Yang Chun, Lan Ying didn't need to spend more time. After taking a spirit pill, her injuries were almost healed. After telling Yang Chun about the situation outside, she planned to return to the battlefield immediately. Yang Chun did not stop her, but let Lan Ying bring a message to the head of the palace and Elder Wu Xiong, asking them to pay more attention to the Holocaust sect, especially the new sect Master Sima Fei. Although so far, neither the Holocaust sect nor Sima Fei has shown any abnormal signs, Yang Chun always felt uneasy in his heart. Anyway, it was always good to pay more attention. It was better to be careful. Perhaps the women had agreed with each other. Every 20 years or so, one or a few would come to Yang Chen's side and accompany Yang Chen for a period of time. Yang Chen also enjoyed this feeling of being away from his wife. Every time he met, he would be entangled with the women. Yang Chen had already mastered the golden body secret art, but he still did not dare to double cultivate with the women, especially Yang Chen's current spiritual power contained the yin-yang heaven-burning fire. Yang Chen must also think about how to make the women not be affected before he could carry out the real double cultivation. Everyone met each other and simply enjoyed the life of a husband and wife. The process of reclaiming the lost land was orderly. According to Yang Chen's understanding of the situation, the cultivators had been steadily advancing the territory. Now the Dao sects had been connected to the territory of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. The demons and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance formed a line on the periphery. The Sunset Rock had become the most important marketplace. Whether it was the demons or the demons, they all liked to go to the Sunset Rock to find or exchange what they wanted. The largest amount of trading here was the objects of the monsters, and now the cultivators had the most in their hands. After the Chunyang Palace experienced the destruction of the Mountain Gate again, there was no more suffering, and it has been standing steadily on the original site. No one saw anything wrong with it. The Earth Dragon was born to be good at hiding its tracks. It was not known how those cultivators would feel if they knew that they had been living in the body of the Earth Dragon. The 5 Murong sisters came together. The 5 sisters had never been separated from each other since they were young, and this time was no exception. Now that the Murong sisters were the direct disciples of the sect master, their status was very different from before, but in front of Yang Chen, they were still the 5 obedient concubines. Originally, the husband and wife meeting was a very beautiful thing. Unfortunately, the Murong sisters actually brought 2 outsiders, which made Yang Chen very speechless. Following the Murong sisters were the 2 royal family members of the Dragon Clan, Ao Lan and Ao Lai. Only the 2 of them could force the Murong sisters, who had the dragon puppet, to take them to see Yang Chen. Others would not dare to make such a request. So satisfying. Before Yang Chen and the Murong sisters could have a small gathering, Ao Lai had already jumped out impatiently. He laughed and showed off to Yang Chen, "Unfortunately, your cultivation has not recovered, and you missed the big scene. No matter how big the scene is, it will not be as big as the scene of me killing you." Yang Chen gritted his teeth and replied to Ao Lai, "This fellow simply has no foresight. Can't he see that I have not seen the Murong sisters for a long time? Your cultivation is recovering very quickly." Ao Lan's voice came from another direction. As usual, he did not reveal himself, as if he was not willing to appear in front of humans. However, his tone was very friendly. "Looks like I will be able to get the embryo fusing pill very soon." Chapter 1899. Ao Lan wholeheartedly wanted to resurrect the fire dragon, and the key to resurrecting the fire dragon rested on Yang Chen. As long as Yang Chen obtained the fusing embryo pill, Ao Lan could let the fire dragon reincarnate on the dragon puppet. Hence, Ao Lan was most concerned about Yang Chen's cultivation. Seeing that Yang Chen had reached the middle stage of the Great Ascension realm in a few hundred years, Ao Lan was naturally very happy. When Yang Chen was still in the Foundation Establishment realm, he could refine the 8 Revolution Essence nurturing pill without touching the profound spirit furnace. The higher his cultivation, the more confident Yang Chen would be in refining the fusing embryo pill. Ao Lan could not help but be happy. The 2 dragon experts did not always follow the Murong sisters. When the demonic calamity broke out, no one knew where they went. Probably no cultivators would be interested in their whereabouts. The only thing they could be sure of was that the demonic calamity should not affect them. This could be seen from Ao Lan and Ao Lai's unscathed bodies. There was no need to talk about the strong Ao Lan. There were not many opponents who could injure Ao Lai. Perhaps Yang Chen could be considered one. Of course, Big Brotherly Chung was definitely one. Speaking of Big Brotherly Chung, Yang Chen had not seen him for a long time. Ever since they parted at the trial grounds, Yang Chen had not seen Li Cheng again. Fortunately, Yang Chen firmly believed in Li Cheng's strength and did not need to worry about his safety during the demonic calamity. It was very easy for Ao Lan and Ao Lai to find Yangchun. After all, they helped to refine the mysterious Sky Dark Sea Shuttle and the Dragon Palace. Their auras were still on them. They could know where Yangchun was at any time. It was also a coincidence that they were together with the Murong sisters. When they were looking for Yangchun, they discovered that the Murong sisters were also heading in this direction. Ao Lan had been paying attention to the aura of the dragon puppet. They could take this opportunity to check on the dragon puppet situation. It had to be said that Ao Lan was very satisfied with the results. Yangchun was right. The 5 Murong sisters' 5 elements were balanced. Their thoughts were unified. After being nourished by their 5-element formation, the dragon puppet was in a much better state than when they first saw it. Based on this progress, when the dragon spirit was revived in the immortal world, the dragon puppet would enter its peak state. This would only benefit the fire dragon. Of course, this was what Ao Lan said. Everything was just along the way and not on purpose. However, Ao Lai understood Ao Lan's intentions. Yangchun also understood it. Even the Murong sisters understood it. However, no one pointed it out. Xiaochen wondered what kind of relationship Huolong had with Ao Lan for Ao Lan to pay so much attention to it. When the demonic tribulation was raging, they rushed to the Murong sisters' side to carefully check the state of the dragon puppet, and also stopped by to see the recovery of Yangchen's cultivation base. Ao Lai took the Jade wine to heart too, because it had with and dragon, and Lai, and dragon, and Chun, and Ao Lai had always been brooding over the Jade Dragon wine, as it was the wine of the dragon race. Unfortunately, Senior gave it to Yangchun. Ao Lai was too embarrassed to take it back. Of course, it was mostly because he could not or did not dare to. Hence, he had to drink to his heart's content every time he came. Ao Lan did not like wine. She only accompanied Ao Lai and Yangchun for a few drinks. After that, Ao Lan seemed to discover something. She asked out of curiosity, "Who is that person in the Dragon Palace? He looks very strong." When the Dragon Palace merged with the profound Heaven Dark Sea Shuttle, Ao Lan had helped. Yangchun had not gotten Xiao Tian to erase Ao Lan's aura. Hence, although she did not have control over the Dragon Palace now, she could sense that there was someone in it. He is the son of a senior in the immortal world. He purposely sent him to the spiritual realm to avoid calamity and temper himself. Yangchun gave a simple introduction. Then, he reminded, do not show any hostility to him. Otherwise, he will attack. Although Ao Lan was strong, she was not someone who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. At the very least, she did not have the habit of falling out with Yangchun at the slightest provocation. Hearing Yangchun's serious tone, Ao Lan paid attention not to disturb Yangchun. Ao Lai, who was at the side, could not sit still. He was very curious. When he heard Yangchun say that, he became somewhat eager to give it a try. Yangchun only glanced at Ao Lai and said indifferently, "It is best not to cause trouble. That person can kill me in an instant at any time." Xiao Chen's words immediately made Ao Lai obedient. When Yangchun was still a Foundation Establishment cultivator, Ao Lai was already subdued. Not to mention now that Yangchun was already a Mahayana stage cultivator. Even the current Yangchun said that Ao Lai would be killed in an instant. Naturally, Ao Lai was not a match for him. Although Ao Lai was arrogant, he was not so arrogant that he did not care about his life. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, Ao Lan got down to business. The moment Ao Lan opened her mouth, she startled Yangchun. "Previously, you warned us that there would be trouble in the trial ground," Ao Lan said slowly. "After the demonic beast tide erupted, the 2 of us went to the core of the trial ground to take a look and saw some things. Even though the demonic beasts in the demonic calamity were not as ferocious as they were at the beginning, the core of the trial ground, the center of the demonic calamity, was still ridiculously strong. Previously, Li Cheng had used the power of the sea-pouring jasper lamp to bring Yangchun to the core of the trial ground. In Yangchun's impression, Only Li Cheng could appear at the spatial entrance. Now, Ao Lan and Ao Lai were probably included. It was easy to imagine that Ao Lai must have benefited from Ao Lan. With his strength, he would not be able to rush to that kind of core. There's a large spatial entrance there. It might be connected to another world. Ao Lan said concisely. Ao Lan explained concisely. The demonic beasts all came out from that spatial exit. That world might be an independent world, no inferior to the spiritual realm. The world and the cave were different. No matter how big the cave was, it was just a refined magic treasure. However, the world was different. Yang Chun had never heard of anyone who could refine the entire world. Yang Chun already knew about that spatial entrance. Furthermore, he had personally refined it. As long as his cultivation was sufficient, he could close that spatial entrance at any time. Hence, when he heard Ao Lan's words, Yang Chun did not even show any surprise. He was calm, as if it was natural. Seeing Yang Chen's performance, Ao Lan nodded in his heart. When Ao Lai first saw the spatial entrance, his reaction was no better than a child who saw a monkey show for the first time. Yang Chun had such a temperament at such a young age. It was indeed not a fluke that he could become a rank 8 alchemist. Yang Chun could understand Ao Lan's recognition. However, Yang Chun was not stupid enough to expose the fact that he already knew about the spatial entrance. However, Ao Lan's next sentence made Yang Chun jump. After the demonic calamity broke out, there were other cultivators in the core of the trial ground. Ao Lan continued to say calmly. This news seemed very ordinary to her. Chapter 1900. Ao Lan could not understand Yang Chen's astonishment. Could it be that the exit to the other world was not as good as the cultivators there? Why did Yang Chun react like this when he heard that there were cultivators? Who are they? How are their cultivations? Yang Chun asked anxiously. It was like those cultivators were Yang Chen's long-lost friends. It's just a few Heaven Immortal juniors and a few profound immortals. They are moving around sneakily by relying on a secret formation. Ao Lai replied. Similarly, he could not understand Yang Chen's anxiousness. He replied lazily, if not for the fact that we were just going over to take a look and not wanting to cause any trouble, none of them would have survived. Do they really think that they can strut around there just because they can fool some brainless demonic beasts? Humph. Ao Lai's words fully reflected his dissatisfaction with those cultivators. This was also his true feelings. Those fellows who did not even dare to step out of that formation were actually arrogantly pointing fingers at the world. Ao Lai really did not know where they got their thick skin from. The group of cultivators hiding in the core of the trial ground by relying on the formation. A thought flashed in Yang Chen's mind. Suddenly, he understood. So that's how it is. When nearly 99% of the spiritual realm is flooded by the demonic beast tide, where is the safest place? In the past, Yang Chen always thought that it was the places that were not affected by the demonic beast tide. It could be said that everyone else thought the same. This was also the first reaction of a normal person. A place without demonic beasts was the safest. However, there was another saying. The most dangerous place was the safest. This was a way of thinking that challenged everyone's fixed thinking. It was used here because the place where the demonic beasts came out was the safest. The Zhao clan's ancestor had made such a grand arrangement. How could he guarantee the safety of his descendants from the demonic beast tide? It must be the formation that could conceal auras that Ao Lai mentioned. Where are those cultivators exactly? Yang Chun became excited. After pondering for a while, he asked carefully, is it beside the exit of that space or somewhere else? This was what puzzled Yang Chun. If it was beside the exit of the space, then it was impossible for the Zhao family to not notice when Li Cheng caused such a huge commotion and killed so many Xian immortal demonic beasts, right? It shouldn't be at the spatial exit. Otherwise, with Big Brother Li Cheng's cultivation, it would be impossible for him to not discover any cultivators. However, it was easy to evade the perception of demonic beasts, but what method did these fellows use to evade Big Brother Li Cheng's detection? It's still far from that exit. It's on the other side of a strange formation. Ao Lai excitedly told Yang Chun. On the contrary, Lan, who was the first to speak, quietly kept her mouth shut. She only listened to them speak as she sipped on her wine cup. There was a strange formation outside. The first thing that Yang Chun thought of when he heard about it was the formation that could only be entered through the Zhao family manor. It was the formation that blocked Big Brother Li Cheng from entering at the start. At that time, Li Cheng wanted to enter without activating the formation. However, he was unable to do so. In the end, it was Yang Chen's Zhao family manor that contributed greatly. That formation is very strange. The moment spiritual sense probed for too long, it would immediately suck in. Ao Lai held a large wine jar in his claws and drank a mouthful. Then he said proudly, "If not for this old man's talent." Just as Ao Lai said this while gesticulating, Ao Lan, who was beside him, coughed gently. Ao Lai immediately became much more obedient. He said obediently, "If not for Elder Sister Lan's incredible skills, we would have to fight with those fellows for a while." From Ao Lai's words, Yang Chun understood how they entered. Ao Lan's cultivation was too strong. She used her fastest speed to charge through the formation. Then, she tossed a few demonic beasts into the formation, causing those cultivators to think that the formation was triggered by the demonic beasts crashing into it. Because of this, Ao Lai was very dissatisfied with those cultivators. If not for Ao Lan suppressing him to not cause trouble, Ao Lai might have made a move and killed all those cultivators. That's right. It seems like those cultivators are only in one place. There are no other places. Ao Lai added, "They could be considered lucky. If not for Elder Sister Lan not letting me make a move, I would have taught them a lesson long ago." Only then did it make sense. The vast outer magic array was spread across a radius of tens of thousands of Li cultivators would only appear at certain points in certain directions. It also explained how these fellows could avoid Big Brother Li Cheng's probing. Ao Lai now addressed Ao Lan as Elder Sister Lan. According to seniority, he should not address her like this. Perhaps Ao Lan allowed Ao Lai to address her this way because of the fire dragon's body. This could be considered Ao Lan's way of showing love for the house and its crow. "Don't listen to this fellow's bragging." Ao Lan finally spoke, directly rebuking Ao Lai's earlier words. "I'm not bragging." Ao Lai immediately cried out in grievance. He had personally experienced all this. How was he bragging? The fellows in that formation are not simple. Ao Lan said with a very grave expression. The few people who appeared were very ordinary. Ao Lai could easily crush them. However, I can sense an extremely horrifying expert in there. Ao Lan revealed a reminiscing expression. After a pause, he added, "Very terrifying. If they fought, they would not be weaker than me." Ao Lan had not revealed such a grave expression even when facing the middle stage golden immortal dragon puppet. Based on Ao Lan's words, it seemed like he feared that expert. How could Yang Chun not be shocked? Unexpectedly, the Zhao clan still hid such a trump card. Indeed, they had made ample preparations. However, since they had such an expert, how could they allow the various large sect to work together and kill tens of thousands of their outer disciples and sect members? However, you don't have to worry. That expert probably cannot leave that place. When Ao Lan saw Yang Chen's expression sink, he smiled and said, "Although I do not know the reason, my intuition is not wrong. He did not discover me, but I discovered his existence." The super master who was bound in the formation, Yang Chen's heart also had a little bit of spectrum. An expert trapped in a certain area would be much less of a threat. Furthermore, the profound heaven sect was now the vanguard in dealing with the Zhao clan. The more powerful the Zhao clan's expert, the greater the losses the profound heaven sect would suffer. This was exactly what Yang Chun wanted. Yang Chun even hoped to see the Zhao clan and the profound heaven sect fight to the death. That would definitely be the most beautiful scene in the world. As for how to deal with that super expert, Yang Chun was not worried. Ao Lan, the dragon puppet, and Lin Zhengyuan were all golden immortals. 3 against 1. Could it be that they could not kill that expert? Even if the 3 of them could not, there was still Big Brother Li Cheng. Yang Chun firmly believed that this nameless expert was not a match for Big Brother Li Cheng. Chapter 1901. At some point in time, Yang Chun had developed a worship-like trust for Li Cheng. It was like there was no enemy in the world that Li Cheng could not deal with. Several hundred years ago, Li Cheng alone withstood the attacks of tens of thousands of grade 5 profound, immortal demonic beasts and above, killing them all. Several hundred years later, defeating a fellow that even Ao Lan, a golden immortal, feared should not be a problem. Furthermore, it was not like Yang Chun was going to kill that fellow immediately. Yang Chun was still hoping that this expert could deal with the profound heaven sect. That would definitely happen after the demonic calamity was over. Compared to now, that would be several hundred years later. So, Yang Chun was not in a rush. Many thanks. Yang Chun thanked Ao Lan and Ao Lai from the bottom of his heart. If not for them making this trip, Yang Chun would not have known that the Zhao clan was actually hidden in this so-called most dangerous place. You just have to cultivate properly and refine medicinal pills. Ao Lan did not hide her purpose in telling Yang Chun all this. I heard that someone might be targeting you. Originally, I was planning to accompany you for a while. Since you have that expert by your side, there is no need to mention anything else. Ao Lan was truly afraid that something would happen to Yang Chun before he refined the embryo-merging pill. She was very worried about Yang Chun's safety. Now that she saw Yang Chun having an expert like Lin Jingyuan as his bodyguard, she felt much more at ease. However, while she felt at ease, she was still astonished that Yang Chun could easily find such an expert to protect him. Even though Ao Lan had such thoughts, Yang Chun still felt very grateful. After receiving Ao Lan warmly, Yang Chun did not forget to say a lot of good things and express his gratitude. This made Ao Lai extremely happy. Even Ao Lan was filled with joy. For now, Yang Chun's cultivation was rather low. There was nothing he could do to help Ao Lan and Ao Lai. However, Yang Chun did not like to owe others favors. Hence, Yang Chun felt that it would be best if he could repay them. As for medicinal pills, given Yang Chun's current level, this should not be of much use to Ao Lai and Ao Lan. In terms of magic weapons, Yang Chun's most powerful magic weapon, in addition to his life source flying sword, was the good things in the Dragon Clan's treasure house. It was estimated that there would not be anything that could move Ao Lan and Ao Lai. After thinking about it, Yang Chun could only put his idea on Xiao Tian. Is there anything that can tempt Ao Lai and Ao Lan? Yang Chun asked through his spiritual connection with Xiao Tian. Xiao Tian seemed to be very reluctant at first, but after Yang Chun promised a variety of magic weapons, he finally nodded. His long body finally flew out of the Dragon Pagoda. Then, he put a piece of jade slip in his mouth into Yang Chun's hand. Then, he quickly drilled back into the Dragon Pagoda, as if he was afraid that he would be occupied by Ao Lan and Ao Lai. From the moment Xiao Tian appeared until he returned, Ao Lan and Ao Lai's gazes never left Xiao Tian. When the two royal members of the dragon race saw Xiao Tian enter the Dragon Pagoda, their gazes were filled with envy. Yang Chun scanned the contents of the jade strip. There were two dragon race cultivation techniques. However, the dragon race's cultivation techniques were different from human cultivators. Yang Chun did not have much use for it. He did not know what use it had. After checking it for a while, Yang Chun handed the jade strip to Ao Lan. Then he said that this was a thank you gift for the two of them making this trip. Seeing Ao Lan's pleasantly surprised expression, Yang Chun knew that these two dragon race cultivation techniques were extraordinary. Even the royal members of the dragon race were like this. One could imagine how precious these cultivation techniques were. This is too precious. I'm ashamed to receive it. Ao Lan took a deep breath before he could suppress his excitement. Although Ao Lai did not see the contents of the jade strip, he could tell from Ao Lan's expression that it was something incredible. Ao Lan was someone who did not like owing favors. The cultivation techniques that Yang Chun gave her were too precious. She felt that running errands was not enough for her to obtain such a precious thing. However, she was not willing to give up just like this. She had already seen it. Returning it would be too pretentious. So, she immediately said, "How about this? If you need us to make a move in the future, we can help you deal with strong enemies twice." Given AO land's cultivation, 99% of the cultivators in the spiritual realm would not be a match for her if she made a move. Helping out twice meant helping Yang Chun deal with two extremely strong enemies that were at least golden immortals. This sounded like a pretty good deal. It would be a lie if Yang Chun said that he was not tempted by AO land's offer. However, he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Can you change it? Make a move once and answer some of my questions?" Yes. Aolan did not say anything and nodded directly. However, her face looked very serious. A few questions that could match the strength of a golden immortal would definitely not be easy to answer. I got the golden bell, the mountain river geographical map, the 5-element hook, and the water and fire dragon horns from the Dragon Clan's treasure house. How should I use them? Facing the two royal family members of the Dragon Clan, Yang Chun asked directly. Yang Chun got 8 things from the Dragon Clan's treasure house. The Dragon Pagoda was given to Xiao Tian. The Sea Jasper was given to Li Cheng. The gourd was integrated into the Medicine Garden. The shuttle was integrated with the Dragon Palace. Yang Chun estimated that he could not explore more of these 4 things. However, the remaining 4 things were used by Yang Chun and the people around him. Yang Chun had to ask clearly. The Mountain River geographical map was now Gong Sunling's life source magic weapon. The 5-element hook was the Murong sisters. The water and fire dragon horns were Gao Yu's life source magic weapon. The golden bell had always been on Yang Chen's body. When he crossed the tribulation last time, he noticed something strange. It was because of the strangeness of the golden bell that Yang Chen suddenly became excited. He used Aolan to make a move in exchange for these questions. Aolan stared at Yang Chun for a while. It seemed that she was hesitating whether to say these things to Yang Chun. After struggling for a while, she finally compromised. The Mountain River geographical map. As long as enough space is refined and enough population is added, it is very likely to form a new world. Aolan didn't open her mouth, but when she opened her mouth, it was a heavyweight news. However, this is just the guess of our Dragon Clan's old ancestor. I don't know if it works. Yang Chun was also shocked. A new world, if it really works, wouldn't it become a world similar to the Zhao family space exit? Can the cultivator's magic weapon really reach this point? Even the dragons themselves are not sure about things. Maybe it's just a legend, or maybe it's just a beautiful wish. At least Yang Chun will not tell Gong Sunling directly now, so as not to let her have unrealistic hopes and eventually become a great disappointment. A crazy idea suddenly came to Yang Chen's mind. If he let Gong Sunling refine the world behind the space exit into the Mountain River geographical map, what would be the result? Chapter 1902. Gong Sunling was not around. Furthermore, Yang Chun could not possibly tell her the results directly. Even if he started using it, it would be something for a long time. Right now, Yang Chun wanted to know what the remaining magic treasures were for. The 5-element hooks were meant for 5 cultivators in the first place. Now that you gave them to the Murong sisters, you are going in the right direction. Aolan seemed to be very clear on these items. After she decided to tell Xiao Chun, she did not hide anything and quickly spoke. Aolan had long since noticed that the Murong sisters' life magic treasures were the dragon race's 5-element hooks. However, she did not make a move to snatch them or ask for the reason. From this, it could be seen that Aolan's dragon grade was pretty good. The Murong sisters were present in the first place. When they heard Aolan mention their life magic treasures, they paid full attention, afraid of missing out on a single word. However, you sisters are using the ordinary method to refine it. You can only bring out 30% of the magic treasures might at best. Aolan pointed at the Murong sisters and criticized them rudely. It is the same for the water and fire dragon horns. You cannot bring out their true might. When the Murong sisters heard that they could only bring out 30% of the 5-element hook's might, the Murong sisters immediately felt anxious. They wanted to ask Aolan how to refine it. However, with their husband at the side, they did not dare to speak casually. They were also afraid that Ao Lan would not tell them the answer if they asked. So they looked at Yang Chen anxiously, waiting for him to ask. Yang Chen also wanted to ask. However, just as he was about to speak, he suddenly saw the faint smile on Ao Lan's face. So he immediately stopped. After that, Xiao Chan thought for a while and immediately came up with an idea. He stopped talking about this and continued asking about the usage of the Golden Bell. Refining the dragon race's magic treasure was definitely a unique method of the dragon race's inheritance. Could the dragon race's inheritance be more informative than the Dragon Pagoda? If Yanchen wanted to know, he just had to ask Xiao Tian. There was no need to owe Ao Lan a favor over this. Seeing that Yang Chun did not fall for it, Ao Lan smiled somewhat embarrassedly. He felt somewhat embarrassed that Yang Chun saw through his thoughts. However, Ao Lan immediately adjusted himself and started explaining to Yang Chun how to use the Golden Bell. The Golden Bell is a very powerful defensive magic treasure. However, its strongest aspect is that it can directly fuse with the cultivator's body, becoming one with the cultivator's body, making the cultivator's body as hard as the Golden Bell. Ao Lan smiled and said, "After you complete it, there will be 8 dragon images protecting your body. I believe you already know this." Yang Chen nodded, still feeling a little surprised. Unexpectedly, the Golden Bell could be integrated into his body and become one with him. This was simply a magic weapon version of the Golden Body secret art. If his Golden Body incantation fused with the Golden Bell, he didn't know what other magic treasures in the spiritual world could hurt his body. Although the Golden Body secret art was powerful, the Golden Bell was also powerful, but Yang Chun was not arrogant enough to be invincible in the world with the combination of the two. Among cultivators of the same level as him, there were no magic treasures that could injure him. Yang Chun had never had such extravagant hopes. Ao Lan basically answered Yang Chen's questions about the functions of the 4 magic treasures. However, she only mentioned the possible directions and did not mention a single word about the refinement method. How to refine space with the geographical map, how to fuse the Golden Bell with the body, how to properly refine the fire and water dragon horns, and the 5-element hooks. Ao Lan did not mention a single word about the details. Both sides had a tacit understanding. Ao Lan seemed to adhere to her role as a royal member of the dragon race. As for Yang Chun, he did not force her. Up until now, it could be said that everyone was happy. After that, Yang Chun did not mention anything about this. He only warmly entertained Ao Lan and Ao Lai for 1 month. After enjoying themselves in Yang Chen's Dragon Palace, Ao Lan and Ao Lai said their goodbyes and left. Only Yang Chun and the Murong sisters were left. Only then did the Murong sisters anxiously ask Yang Chun what he meant back then. Why did he not ask Ao Lan for guidance on the refinement method? After Yang Chun explained, the Murong sisters became happy. They had been stifled for the past few days. When they thought about how their life-bonded magic treasures could not even bring out 30% of their power, the Murong sisters felt extremely anxious. Xiao Tian was immediately asked about the refinement method. Unfortunately, Xiao Tian did have a method. However, this method was only suitable for the dragon race. Human cultivators would have to think of other methods. Yang Chen knew that it would not be easy for human cultivators to completely use the dragon race's magic treasures. Indeed, it was true now. However, Yang Chun was not at his wit's end. Xiao Tian had already taken out the refinement method for the dragon race. Yang Chun kept the jade strips properly. When he met Big Brother Li Cheng again, he would ask him for guidance. He believed that Big Brother Li Cheng would definitely have a way. The reason why Yang Chun could be so sure was because of Zhou Xianying. Right now, Zhou Xianying's Heavenly Phoenix Zither was refined by Big Brother Li Cheng with the help of the Dragon Bone String Pillar and the Dragon Whisker Zither. Its might did not change. Zhou Xianying's cultivation did not change. However, by relying on the refinement of the Heavenly Phoenix Zither, its lethality increased by more than double. This could only mean one thing. Big Brother Li Cheng had a deep understanding of the dragon race's refinement method. Xiao Chen would definitely get a suitable answer from him. Although the Murong sisters felt some regret, they could only accept such a result. They were very clear that even if they had asked Ao Lan, aside from their husband owing Ao Lan a favor, the result would not have changed. The method that Ao Lan took out would definitely be the dragon race's refinement method. It would not be suitable for human cultivators. Although they could not find a better refinement method, the five sisters were very happy to accompany their husband in his cultivation. Ever since Yang Chun supported the five sisters in the five-element sect, the five sisters were very infatuated with Yang Chun. However, it was a pity that there was a problem with her husband's cultivation method. He could not perform dual cultivation. However, even if her husband did not use spiritual energy, it was enough to make the five sisters feel like dying. After Ao Lan and Ao Lai left, Yang Chen's days were relatively peaceful. The Murong sisters collectively accompanied Yang Chun in the Dragon Palace for 3 years before leaving. After that, Yang Chen's cultivation began to follow a regular pattern. Every 20 years or so, one or more of Yang Chen's wives and concubines would accompany Yang Chun for a period of time. Yang Chen's cultivation also gradually and steadily increased. When Yang Chun underwent the Yin Fire Tribulation, he already had the strength of a middle-stage Great Ascension Realm cultivator. In a short 100 years, Yang Chun had already cultivated to the late-stage Great Ascension Realm. However, if Yang Chun wanted to enjoy the Wind Tribulation Room, filled with heavenly tribulation, he would have to recover to at least Grade 3 Human Immortal Realm. According to Yang Chen's current cultivation speed, it would be impossible to reach such a realm in less than 200 years. But even so, Yang Chun was already shocking enough. From losing all his cultivation to recovering to Grade 3 Human Immortal Realm, it had only been 560 or 70 years. There was no one in the past and no one in the future. Chapter 1903. It could be said that Yang Chen's cultivation speed was almost planned. 200 years later, Yang Chun accurately raised his cultivation to the 3rd grade of the Human Immortal. The realm had been reached, but he had not yet crossed the Wind Tribulation again. There was almost no accident in the territory of the spiritual world. So far, 2/3 of it had been steadily conquered. The remaining part, it was believed that it could be completely recovered within 200 years. Those refugee cultivators who had taken refuge in various places would happily return to their old territory. In fact, almost half of the cultivators were now standing in their original territory. In the original territory, except for all the buildings that were destroyed and turned into ruins, there were many more traces of fighting. There was no other change at all. The natives of the cultivation world actually suffered heavy casualties, but in the direction of the Dao sects, there were basically not many casualties. The reason was that when the demonic tribulation broke out, Gong Sunling was kind and collected the natives who could not hide in the mountain river geographical map in time, which saved them. This was also the most fundamental reason why Gao Yu and Gong Sunling would take the risk of taking Lin Jingyuan to meet the monster tide. Their starting point was not for experience at all. Killing and experience were just things that happened along the way. In this regard, Yang Chen appreciated it very much. Saving lives was a great merit. In the immortal world, it was a large amount of merit value. It was estimated that after the ascension, Gong Sunling should be the one with the richest merit value in the family apart from Yang Chun. Now Yang Chen's cultivation had reached the point where he could cross the tribulation. But before the tribulation, Yang Chun had to arrange several things first. The development of Chunyang Palace went smoothly. With the protection of the Earth Dragon, Yang Chun did not have to worry about security at all. The head of the palace would definitely bring Chunyang Palace into a more glorious situation. The Zhao family was likely to be hiding in the center of the trial site. Yang Chun did not intend to inform anyone about this for the time being, and even told the Murong sisters not to talk about it. The center of the trial grounds was still occupied by powerful demonic beasts. The higher the stage, the stronger the cultivation of the demon beasts. The cultivators had now entered a slow process of recovering the demon beasts because of this. Due to the strength of the demonic beasts, there is no way to send people over to verify it. Xiao Chun was an expert that even Ao Lan feared. If Li Cheng and the dragon race did not have any hidden means, it would be best not to make a move lest they alert the enemy. Even though Yang Qian was certain that the Zhao family was definitely related to the group of people in the center of the trial ground, Yang Qian didn't let his guard down over the Holocaust sect. Instead, he asked Lady Fenghua, Wu Xiong, and the rest to observe them in secret. The sudden change of a new sect master and the old sect master's death was not clear. There were many suspicious points. From the incident with Holocaust sect, Yang Qian was also reviewing whether there were any loopholes in his decision to allow sect Master Wang of Mystic Heaven sect to ascend. Yang Qian did not want to be suspected at a glance, so he needed to make up for some details when necessary. It was impossible for cultivators to suddenly increase their cultivation, so Yang Qian had to give a reasonable reason for sect Master Wang's cultivation to increase naturally. In this regard, Yang Qian's previous 100-year pill and 1,000-year pill seemed to be good. Even if someone knew about it, they would not doubt it. After thinking about it, Yang Qian still did not have a proper solution. Yang Qian simply put down these headaches and started to refine pills. Since Yang Qian crippled his cultivation, he never took the initiative to refine pills again. The only time he refined the 8 Revolution Essence Nurturing Pill was under pressure from A.O. Lan. This time, when he reopened the profound spirit furnace, Yang Qian even had a little expectation. He didn't know if there would be any difference in refining pills with a new fire control method. What was given to Sect Master Wang was the profound marrow pill, but it also included the 1,000-year pill, the questioning inner heart pill, and the spirit congealing pill. Yang Qian, in order to show his so-called filial piety and to show his own level to the high-level members of Mystic Heaven sect, the pills refined this time had to be at least 6 revolutions. His cultivation was crippled once, and he cultivated again, and then he had more insights. He was promoted from a 5th-grade alchemist master to a 6th-grade alchemist master. This feeling was not abrupt, and it was even very convincing. The fire control method that Li Cheng taught Yang Qian was much better than Yang Qian's original method. This was also the reason why Yang Qian had always been convinced by Li Cheng. The yin-yang heaven-burning fire, a kind of fire that only existed in legends, had never appeared in reality. Under Li Cheng's fire control technique, it could even penetrate into the original spiritual power of various attributes, and the power could be seen. Used in alchemy, Yang Qian immediately realized that it was a world of difference from his previous alchemy. The fire seeds in the profound spirit furnace came alive in an instant, and Yang Qian could even detect the joy of the flames when they burned. This was a qualitative improvement in the fire control technique, and Yang Qian's alchemy level was also greatly improved. Even if 4 kinds of medicinal pills were refined together, it would not have much impact on Yang Qian. The 1,000-year pill, the spirit congealing pill, and the questioning inner heart pill were inside, and they did not interfere with each other. The profound marrow pill wrapped the 3 kinds of medicinal pills in it, which was more difficult than any of Yang Qian's previous refining. The most complicated Iyuan profound marrow pill, which was refined separately, could only admit defeat in the face of the difficulty of this refining. But Yang Qian does not feel that this kind of internal and external refining at the same time has much of a problem. At least before the 4th grade refining, Yang Qian only needs to pay attention to not letting several kinds of medicinal pills mix into one. The influence of the Golden Body secret arts, spiritual power, and fire control technique on alchemy can be seen. What really made Yang Qian feel difficult was the 4th and 5th grade refining. Even with Yang Qian's Xian Immortal 2nd grade spiritual awareness cultivation base, he felt that it was not so easy to control at this time. Fortunately, in order to pursue the best and most natural effect, Yang Qian used the merit chapter at the beginning of the refining, not only to ensure the success rate of the refining, but also to ensure the strongest medicinal effect. Under the escort of the merit chapter, Yang Qian carefully completed the 5th grade refining. After the strong bonus of the profound spirit furnace, 2 profound marrow pills with 6 clear dragon patterns were successfully collected by Yang Qian. The first alchemy after hundreds of years, and it was still refining inside and outside at the same time. The difficulty of the refining process was comparable to ascending to the heavens, and he succeeded in one fell swoop. Yangchen was very satisfied with this result. His own alchemy level has been improved, and he has also completed the important props of the profound heaven sect, which was the best of both worlds. Everything was ready, only the east wind was missing. The Zhao family and the profound heaven sect also needed to stand up and fight in the real arena. At this point, Yangchen was only left to pass the wind tribulation and restore the real human immortal cultivation base. Everything could only be operated after Yangchen appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 1904. With Yangchen's cultivation, it was not difficult to cross the wind tribulation now. However, the last time Yangchen was crossing the Yin fire tribulation, he found something interesting. The golden bell seemed to be able to be affected by the tribulation. Because of this discovery, Yangchen realized that maybe the way he refined the golden bell was wrong. So he asked those questions when he saw Ao Lan. Ao Lan gave advice, and Yangchen also learned the sacrificial method of the dragon from Xiao Tian. Although Yangchen could not do it, there were still some references after all. The most difficult part was that it needed to use the unique power of the dragon race to sacrificial refine, and the tribulation seemed to be able to replace this power. The Yin fire tribulation may be too low in power. Yangchen only felt the abnormal vibration of the golden bell, but there was no substantial progress. The wind tribulation was 100 times stronger than the Yin fire tribulation. Perhaps he could use the power of the wind tribulation to forcibly integrate the golden bell into the body and merge it into one. As Yangchen expected, when Yangchen stepped into the room of the tribulation, the wind tribulation quickly filled the whole room like the previous thunder tribulation and Yin fire tribulation. The huge space was all filled with the wind tribulation, and it swarmed towards Yangchen. This was the result that Yangchen deliberately pursued, and it was also another manifestation of the unparalleled spiritual power of the Golden Body secret art. Just looking at the performance of the three disasters, it was known that the tribulation of the spiritual world and the immortal world that Yangchen would face in the future would not be easy, and it was likely to scare a large number of people. While the wind tribulation was quenching Yangchen's body, it was also consciously led into the golden bell by Yangchen. The powerful spiritual awareness surpassed several realms of spiritual power and controlled the tribulation to start sacrificial refining according to the way of the dragon race. The power of the tribulation was enough to replace the power of some mysterious races of the dragon race. Yangchen had already felt that the golden bell was slowly melting and was integrating with his body a little bit. He didn't know what material the Dragon Clan had used, but it was actually able to fuse with their bodies. It was even closer than the fusion between their natal magic treasures and their masters. It was clear that the magic treasure was becoming a part of their bodies. When Ao Lan introduced it, there was actually one thing that he didn't say. The golden bell was the same as the Mountain River geographical map. It was just that the seniors of the Dragon Clan hoped to achieve that level. As for whether they could do it or not, they didn't know. However, the Dragon Clan had already designed a specific sacrificial refinement method. Everything needed to be verified by the Dragon Clan or cultivators. From the function of the Mountain River geographical map, Yangchen vaguely guessed that there must be something wrong with the unique golden bell. Although Ao Lan did not say anything, he had hinted to Yangchen. At that time, the Murong sisters were present. Yangchen did not want to make them anxious, so he did not say much. He only nodded slightly to show that he understood. It was not surprising that no dragons were willing to experiment, or that the dragons in the mortal spiritual world could not meet the requirements of fusing with the golden bell. Yangchen only wanted to use the heavenly tribulation to refine the golden bell. He did not expect to completely fuse with the golden bell after one wind tribulation. However, even so, Yangchen had gained a lot. The Dragon Clan's guess was right. The level of the magic treasure refining expert was really high. Under the powerful heavenly tribulation, Yangchen could already sense that part of the golden bell had fused with him. The wind tribulation lasted for half a year. It couldn't be helped. Every heavenly tribulation of that level had to land on Yangchen's body. Not to mention that it erupted at the same time. It should be a 9-stage heavenly tribulation. It was already not bad to be able to complete it in such a long time. After coming out of the heavenly tribulation room, Yang Chun had returned to the real, human, immortal state again. He was even more outstanding than when he was a grade 3 human immortal. The Golden Bell had become a state of half flesh and half magic treasure. Fortunately, the situation that Yang Chun was worried about did not happen. On the contrary, because half of it seemed to have become Yang Chen's body, it was easier to use. The 8 dragon shadows that were originally hovering on the Golden Bell had changed places at the moment. They were wrapped around Yang Chen's body, and there were 8 lifelike, dragon-shaped tattoos on his limbs and torso. As long as Yang Chen thought about it, these tattoos would come alive and become the 8 dragon shadows that could protect him. The power of the wind tribulation was still not enough. At most, it could only fuse less than 1/3 of the Golden Bell in Yang Chun, but this was a good start. At least Yang Chun understood that the direction of the Dragon Clan was not wrong. Unfortunately, the power of the race might not be enough to succeed. It might need a stronger power of heaven and earth to complete such a fusion. Grade 3 human immortal, finally restored to the level that Yang Chun had just ascended to the spiritual world. At least at this level, Yang Chun could continue to wander in the spiritual world without worrying about his cultivation base being too low. The head of the palace and several core high-level members of the pure Yang Palace looked abnormally different today. The kind of happy expression could not be hidden. Everyone's face was that kind of happy look, which made others very puzzled. They hadn't heard of any happy events in Chunyang Palace recently. Was there any good news that everyone didn't know? The master of the palace was happy, naturally, because Yang Chun returned to Chunyang Palace, and his cultivation base had been restored to the level when he had just ascended. In the hearts of these elders, Yang Chen's position was unique. Even if the entire Chunyang Palace was suppressed to the limit, as long as Yang Chen was there, he could still bring Chunyang Palace to glory. Yang Chun had such magic. Good. It's good that you're back. The master of the palace patted Yang Chen's shoulder and grinned from ear to ear. On the other shoulder of Yang Chun, Wang Yang's hand was also constantly patting, and the laughter was endless. What are your plans next? Hall Master Meng Xian asked very kindly. There is no special plan for the time being. I will first sell a batch of 6-grade medicinal pills as a greeting to everyone. After Yang Chun saluted, he replied with a smile. If there is anything, wait until the monster tide is completely quelled. You are now a 6th-grade alchemist master? When they heard Yang Chen's words, everyone's eyes lit up. Yang Chun, the alchemist master, was different. He said that at the level of 6th grade, maybe he could be treated as an ordinary 7th-grade alchemist master, or even stronger. This disciple had never let them down. By the way, Yang Chun, last time you asked us to pay more attention to the Holocaust sect. Recently, Elder Wu and the others seemed to have found something different. When everyone sat down, the master of the palace talked to Yang Chun about the business. What's wrong with the Holocaust sect? Yang Chun also wanted to know the secrets behind the Holocaust sect and immediately asked. Elder Wu and the others found that the disciples of the Holocaust sect sometimes kill the same people. The master of the palace immediately introduced. In addition, at least 1/3 of the elders at the top of the Holocaust sect died and were forced to use the dwelling god Jade. Chapter 1905. Killing the same people. Yang Chun frowned slightly and asked inexplicably, obviously killing the same people? Is there a purpose? After the palace master recalled for a while, he shook his head. I can't see it, but basically every time is a chance encounter, and then they kill and take the goods, which is very in line with the way the demon sects do things. If this was the case, it was not good to do anything directly on the head of the Holocaust sect. Although it was now a cooperation between the cultivators to regain their territory against the common enemy, there were still disagreements between them. The number of cultivators who died was not small, not to mention killing people and taking their goods. It was simply common. It was not easy to find the flaws of the Holocaust sect from this, but the elders of the Holocaust sect had changed a few times, which was a bit abnormal. Please pay more attention to Elder Wu. Yang Chun did not expect to discover the secrets of a super sect like the Holocaust sect by relying on the Wanbao Tower of the Chunyang Palace. He just wanted Elder Wu to pay more attention. Moreover, Yang Chun was very polite. Even if he said Elder Wu in front of the palace master, he also used the word please. The palace master nodded and did not say anything more on this issue. Everyone was self-aware. It was not easy to get some news from so far away. If there were any unrealistic requirements, it would be outrageous. In recent years, Chunyang Palace had no other hardships except for the destruction of the Mountain Gate once. After the new Mountain Gate was rebuilt, everything was basically smooth. The sect was growing in an orderly manner. After the cleansing that outsiders didn't know about, the disciples became purer and more united. At present, at least half of the disciples of Chunyang Palace were practicing in the army of beheading the monsters. The remaining half of the disciples were either cultivating in the sect's territory, guarding the Mountain Gate, or greeting the fellow Taoists everywhere. They seemed to be very busy. The territories of the cultivators were subdued, but the Sunset Rock was still the largest market. After hundreds of years of buying and selling here, everyone seemed to have become accustomed to it. The Wanbao Tower's consistent and honest management had also gained a good reputation. As long as they came to the Sunset Rock, no matter what they wanted to buy or sell, the cultivators' first reaction would be to visit the Wanbao Tower first. In this regard, Wanbao Tower was obviously more famous than Chunyang Palace. It was obvious that Elder Wu Xiong had managed the Wanbao Tower well. It was a wise move to hand it over to Elder Wu Xiong to manage. The demonic calamity that had spread throughout the spiritual realm had also affected the receiving town. The demon beast had directly occupied the small town that was almost at the center of the spiritual realm. Thanks to Yang Chen's early warning, there were not many losses when the devil tribulation broke out. After receiving the news, the envoys of each sect directly brought the disciples of each sect back. However, those who ascended later were not so lucky. The newcomers who had just ascended were directly killed by powerful demon beasts. They didn't even have time to adapt to the spiritual pressure of the spiritual world before they became food for the demon beasts. This miserable situation did not improve until the sect sent the news to the mortal world. The experts who were on the verge of ascending stopped ascending and waited quietly for the news from the spiritual realm. Even so, it was still a matter of 100 years later. During the past 100 years, many disciples of the sect who had just ascended had met with tragedy. Chunyang Palace did not lose much, except for the fact that Yang Chun didn't expect the devil tribulation to come early, and a disciple of Chunyang Palace was killed by the demon beast when he ascended. No disciple of Chunyang Palace had ascended in recent years. Chunyang Palace was originally a nouveau riche sect in the mortal world. After the group of experts like Yang Chun collectively ascended, there were not so many experts behind them. Coupled with the Grand Supreme Human Immortal Elders who had to oversee the sect, it was very normal for one to ascend every few decades. Other sects did not notice anything unusual. Later, Chunyang Palace also received a reminder from the sect that the disciples who were on the verge of ascending did not ascend. This was the sect's way of repaying Yang Chun for reminding them of the outbreak of the devil tribulation. Chunyang Palace and the mortal world could enjoy the blessings of the seniors of the sect with peace of mind. The other sect, especially the sect, had some tragedies. In just 100 years, the sect had lost dozens of disciples who had ascended on average. Although these dozens of human immortal disciples had almost no impact on the strength of their sect, those disciples were all seeds. Their future hope had been destroyed, which made the sect extremely distressed. On the contrary, in the process of killing the demon beasts, the sect had also lost many disciples, but it was not so distressing. Everyone understood the current situation. Everyone was trying their best to regain their territory. As long as their cultivation was high enough, they would do their best. They were also mentally prepared to die for a just cause. For the sake of the sect and themselves, even if there were losses in the process, everyone would pinch their noses and accept it. However, those new disciples who had just ascended were really wronged. They did not even get to enjoy the spiritual power of the spiritual realm for a day. They did not even get used to the spiritual pressure and died in vain. This was the reserve force that the sect in the mortal world had painstakingly cultivated. No one could accept this. Fortunately, after so many years of fighting, especially under the situation where the sect had deliberately chosen the target, the welcoming town was finally recaptured. The sect quickly set up a few powerful formations, and each sent a few supreme mystic immortals to guard the place. In addition, the other small sect also put in a lot of effort. Finally, the welcoming town was stabilized. The disciples in the mortal world could finally continue to ascend and did not have to worry about being killed by the demon beasts as soon as they ascended. Even so, the formation that allowed the new disciples to adapt to the spiritual pressure was still heavily protected. Moreover, the initial show of strength was not that strong. It would be fine after just a little lesson. Speaking of the casualties of the cultivators when they recaptured the territory, the sect could not help but frown. Even Xunyang Palace, which did not directly participate in the recapture of their own sect, only rushed to kill the demon beasts out of voluntary help and the purpose of experiential learning, had lost more than thousands of disciples in the sect, not to mention the cultivators who desperately wanted to recapture their own territory. Xunyang Palace was already very careful. The disciples that were sent out were all cooperating with each other. Very few of them were alone. Everything was based on a safe experience. However, no matter how careful they were, accidents could not be prevented. Tens of thousands of disciples went to experience, but more than 1,000 people died directly, and more than 5,000 to 6,000 were injured. This was under the circumstances that Xunyang Palace was so careful. The other sect's losses were even greater, especially those who had almost killed their way to their own sect's territory and were waiting to recover their lost territory. Stimulated by the fact that their own sect's old haunt was right in front of them, they rushed to kill the demon beasts without any regard for their lives. The number of disciples of the sect who died in this way was several times more than that of Xunyang Palace. This was not counting the cultivators who plotted against each other. In short, in order to recover their lost territory, the sect had paid a heavy price. Chapter 1906. Yang Chun had basically understood the changes over the years, and the next was Yang Chen's own arrangement. Yang Chun did not have to intervene in the affairs of the sect for the time being. With the head of the palace, everything was arranged in good order. Yang Chen's addition would only add to the chaos. As long as Yang Chun grasped the general direction and did not deviate, there would be no major problems in Xunyang Palace. As for the small loss of the sect, in the environment of the spiritual world, which sect could guarantee that there would be no mistakes? Yang Chun basically did not need to kill the monsters to gain experience. After recultivating the golden body secret art under the guidance of Big Brother Li Chung, Yang Chun did not need to carry out this low-level experience. When it came to combat awareness, Yang Chun was not weaker than any master in the spiritual world and even far exceeded it. When it came to spiritual power cultivation, the super change of the golden body secret art made Yang Chun not worry that he would fall behind others. In this case, then killing the monsters would at most be able to harvest some benefits from the corpses of the monsters, and there was no other use. In this case, Yang Chun did not need to spend the energy to gain experience, and he did not need to expose his powerful strength at this time. Now everyone thought that Yang Chun was only a superb face, and his spiritual power cultivation and combat effectiveness could only be regarded as medium, which was the average of all cultivators. This was the conclusion that many people had overestimated Yang Chun. If some people were to comment, Yang Chun might be at the bottom. No way. The rumors were like this. No one had seen Yang Chun's moves, and they did not know how powerful Yang Chun was. Anyway, every time Yang Chun was always surrounded by a super master. No matter what the situation was, the credit of killing the opponent and retreating seemed to not be counted to Yang Chun. Yang Chun was also happy to do so, including the people around Yang Chun had the same idea. Only Shi Shanshan was very dissatisfied with this. One must know that back in the mortal realm, she had made a vow that she would only marry Yang Chun if he could defeat her face-to-face. Of course, Yang Chun had also done it, but those fellows had dared to doubt her husband's strength. Weren't they indirectly doubting themselves? Many people seem to have forgotten about this. Even if they did not forget, they would use the excuse that Shi Shanshan had not obtained the supreme, pure Yang sword qi back then. The current Yang Chun was definitely not Shi Shanshan's match. If it weren't for the fact that Yang Chun had coaxed Shi Shanshan and urged her not to belittle her husband like this, Shi Shanshan would have attacked those guys long ago. However, when it came to alchemy, even the strongest alchemist in the spiritual realm could not help but admire Yang Chun. When they got Yang Chen's 5 Revolutions marrow pill and studied it, they immediately knew the level of Yang Chun. Even if Yang Chun was only a 5th grade alchemist, his level of 5 Revolutions marrow pill alone had surpassed the vast majority of 7th grade alchemists. Not to mention Yang Chen's famous healing medicine, 5 Revolutions Lingji mushroom jade pill. The 5 Revolutions Lingji mushroom jade pill produced by Yang Chun was simply a good thing that cultivators were eager to get. No matter how serious the injury was, there were no more than 3 pills. As long as it was taken in time, even if one foot had already stepped into the netherworld, it could be stopped abruptly. There was no need to explain the powerful medicinal effect. Countless people could not explain it. Even the 6 or 7 Revolutions Lingji mushroom jade pill, refined by the 7th grade alchemist, did not have such a powerful effect. No one knew that the batch of 5 Revolutions Lingji mushroom jade pill that Yang Chun deliberately released was simply a merit medicinal pill. It was a strategy that directly established an unshakable reputation for Yang Chun among the alchemists in the spiritual world. As for the little bit of merit consumed, since the Lingji mushroom jade pill was a life-saving pill, saving a life itself was a great merit, so there was no loss. Now that Yang Chun had recovered his cultivation base and came out of seclusion, he naturally had to announce his return to the outside world. Not for anything else, even if the higher-ups of the profound heaven sect knew, it was necessary for Yang Chun to make some movements. It was obviously unrealistic to send someone to inform the profound heaven sect directly, so Yang Chun could only focus on alchemy. A year later, in the main store of the Wanbao Tower in the Sunset Rock, the cultivators were surprised to find several kinds of 6th grade medicinal pills being auctioned. 6 Revolutions marrow pill, 6 Revolutions questioning inner heart pill, and 6 Revolutions Lingji mushroom jade pill. If it was just an ordinary 6th grade medicinal pill, apart from the 6 Revolutions marrow pill, it was estimated that other medicinal pills would not be able to be auctioned in the Wanbao Tower. But once the pill veins on these medicinal pills were clear dragon-shaped pill veins, then these ordinary-sounding medicinal pills immediately became peerless treasures. The only person in Chunyang Palace who could stand his ground was the alchemy master, Yang Chun. Through the auction of these medicinal pills, he announced in a high-profile manner that he had recovered his cultivation base and then returned to the world of cultivators. Master Yang Chun benefited from this disaster. He actually had some enlightenment in the process of cultivating again after his cultivation was completely abolished. He broke through the bottleneck of the 5th grade alchemy master in one fell swoop and rushed into the ranks of the 6th grade alchemy master. As soon as he appeared, there was such a big scene. 6 Revolutions marrow pill. There were no more than 100 alchemy masters in the entire spiritual world who could refine this kind of medicinal pill. Obviously, Master Yang was the youngest, the one with the lowest cultivation base and the lowest seniority among them. At the same time, it also meant that he was the one with the most talent, the brightest future, and the most expectation. In the war of the devil tribulation in the spiritual world, there was a shortage of all kinds of materials, especially medicinal pills, which had become the most popular commodity. Ordinary medicinal pills were already in such a situation, let alone the super good things concocted by Master Yang Chun. The cultivators who received the news spread the news as soon as possible. Then they began to collect their wealth, just to be able to buy even one of the medicinal pills in the auction. All the major sect leaders also received the news. The first reaction of their leaders was to send their people to Chunyang Palace to congratulate Master Yang. In any case, Yang Chun was the benefactor who reminded everyone to take precautions against the devil tribulation in advance. Because of this action of Yang Chun, it was unknown how many lives of the disciples of the major sect had been indirectly saved. Even if it was a guy who didn't see eye to eye with Yang Chun, he had to be grateful in this matter. Not to mention the 5 major Tao sect that had a close relationship with Yang Chun. With the advantage of distance, each sent an elder who was at least at the core level to congratulate Yang Chun. The senior members of the Xintian sect were even happier, especially elderly. Yang Chun had clearly sent a signal to him that the medicinal pills he needed had been refined. Everything was ready, and they were only missing the east wind. Elderly became the representative of the Xintian sect. He personally went to congratulate Yang Chun, and, at the same time, he had to discuss with Yang Chun again about this action. It was a matter of great importance. Elderly also had to be careful, and there must be no mistakes. The only one who could be discussed was Yang Chun. Chunyang Palace seemed to have expected such a situation. The palace master personally came out to receive them. The scene was extremely grand. Even the most picky cultivator couldn't pick out any flaws from the Chunyang Palace. After 500 years, Yang Chun finally saw Elderly again. Chapter 1907. Elderly came in the name of congratulations. Of course, there was another name, which was to ask for alchemy. Basically, the core elders of the 5 major sects who came first basically had the same idea. The separate meeting between Elder Li and Yang Chun did not attract the attention of others at all, because the 5 representatives had the same process. They first discussed the conditions with the head of the palace, and then negotiated with Yang Chun alone. In the order, Elderly was not particularly picky. He met with Yang Chun in the order of first come, first served. No one could pick out any problems. In the eyes of outsiders, this was the same arrangement as those sects in the mortal world. No one doubted that there was a problem in it. This result made Elderly very satisfied. After seeing Yang Chun, he praised him. This young disciple's work was simply meticulous and flawless. It was not without reason that Chunyang Palace could develop from an unknown small sect to the present existence that even the major sect could not ignore. After Yang Chun respectfully greeted him, Elderly sat on the main seat in Yang Chun's room and nodded repeatedly. After a while, he talked about the business. It's good that your cultivation base has been restored. Elderly was not without a bit of humanity. When he saw that Yang Chun had recovered to the human immortal cultivation base, he was also very emotional. These years, you have worked hard. It's really hard for the sect's master ancestor. On the contrary, this disciple has been hiding in the sect without making any achievements. It's shameful, Yang Chun said modestly. It was strange to say that Elderly did not like those flattering words on ordinary days, but when he heard Yang Chun say a few words, his heart was really comfortable. He had already used the face-nourishing pills, and his young face was full of irrepressible smiles. In the beginning, Yang Chun did not say much. He only told Elderly some simple things about how he had recovered his cultivation. Speaking of which, there was really nothing much to say about these things. He just cultivated step by step, and every once in a while a wife or concubine would accompany him for a period of time. Everything was ordinary and unremarkable. Compared to the outside world, Yang Chun's experiences were simply negligible. Elderly was not very interested in Yang Chun's experience. What he was interested in was the fact that Yang Chun relied on this opportunity to recultivate to break through the 5th grade alchemist master and become a 6th grade alchemist master. Yang Chun also understood the focus of Elder Li's concern. After a brief introduction of his own experiences, he took out the 2 meticulously refined pills and handed them over to Elder Li. This is that. Elder Li took the elixir and immediately felt as if a large stone had been lifted from his heart. He felt much more relaxed. But out of habit, he asked again. That's it. Yang Chun nodded heavily and replied. At the same time, as a way to increase Elder Li's confidence, he added, there is definitely no problem with the things. This disciple can guarantee it. In terms of alchemy, Elder Li's confidence in Yang Chun was not ordinary. When he heard Yang Chun's words, the smile on his face did not change, but he solemnly put away the jade bottle containing the 2 6th grade marrow pills. Master Ancestor, has there been any movement from the Zhao family these years? After handing over the most important things, Yang Chun asked. Although Chunyang Palace had also been paying attention to the outside world over the years, compared with the eyes and ears of the mysterious Heaven sect, it was definitely much worse. Therefore, Yang Chen might be able to get more information from elderly. The Zhao family was now the life and death enemy of all cultivators, so the mysterious Heaven sect had naturally paid a lot of attention to them over the years. Although there was no movement on the surface, there had always been turbulent waves in the dark. The investigation had never stopped. Relatively speaking, the mysterious Heaven sect's investigation was more comprehensive. The focus of Elder Wu's investigation was on the Holocaust sect, but the mysterious Heaven sect covered almost all the cultivation sect. We have found at least hundreds of small sects related to the Zhao family, but we are afraid of alerting them, so we haven't done anything for the time being. Elder Li's words shocked Yang Chen. There were hundreds of small sects. Yang Chen knew that the Zhao family was involved in many things, but he did not expect the mysterious Heaven sect to be able to recover the lost land while presiding over the affairs of the sect. At the same time, they could find so many things while investigating the Zhao family. Elder Wu of Chunyang Palace had investigated for such a long time, but he did not get such a conclusion. There was almost not a single small sect. Don't be surprised. Elderly looked at Yang Chen's expression and knew what Yang Chen was thinking. He smiled gently and said, "Most of the manpower of your Chunyang Palace is concentrated in Linyangchuan. How can you find anything?" After the Zhao family attacked Chunyang Palace last time, they all withdrew from this area. It is a waste of effort for you to investigate here. I heard that there seems to be something wrong with the Holocaust sect. Yang Chen also knew that Elderly was not looking down on Chunyang Palace and was just giving him an explanation. He took a deep breath and then said what he knew and guessed. The death of the Holocaust sect master is a bit strange. Many sects are investigating this matter. Don't get involved in it in the future. Elderly glanced at Yang Chen and reminded him, a sect like the Holocaust sect is not something that Chunyang Palace can afford to provoke. Focus on developing the sect and don't create new problems. When Yang Chen heard the news in seclusion, he felt that there was something wrong. Moreover, all the major sects have been investigating the Zhao family. This kind of unreasonable thing would definitely attract their attention. Yang Chen brought up the matter of the Holocaust sect at this time, but it seemed that Chunyang Palace was too small. After reminding Yang Chen, Elderly sighed and said, in fact, the major sect is not only investigating the Holocaust sect. Each sect is investigating their own disciples for fear that the Zhao family is mixed in it. This was not surprising, since sect Master Chui of the Five Element sect was almost forced to abdicate by the father and son of the Zhao family. All the major sect cared about the internal security of the sect. No one wanted their sect to be in chaos when they were trying their best to deal with the outside world, so they were very careful in this regard. The Zhao family was really forbearing. If it weren't for Yang Chen releasing the secret of the fifth-grade alchemist in the mortal world, no one knew that there was a Zhao family hiding in the dark and penetrating into the major sect. Now they had discovered the Green Jade Immortal Island and the Five Elements sect, but who knew if their own sect had it? Do you know? Elderly sighed and said to Yang Chen, do you know how many core high-level members of the major sect have lost in this demonic calamity? Yang Chen was stunned, and then his face showed a surprised look. The loss of the core high-level members of the major sect was something that Yang Chen had never considered. Each sect lost an average of 3. Elderly was not surprised by Yang Chen's surprise. He snorted and said, think about it. How much of this is the conspiracy of the Zhao family? Chapter 1908. Yang Chen's expression also became serious. He matched Elder Li's words and gave Elder Li a sense of accomplishment. No matter how strong this grand disciple was, without the support of a sect like the mysterious Heaven sect, his vision was still limited. The proud Elder Li didn't know that Yang Chen didn't know how to laugh in his heart. However, in order to make Elder Li happy, Yang Chen still put in a lot of effort to put on a show. The major sects had lost an average of 3 core elders. This matter was indeed a ghastly sight. The dead core elders would definitely be replaced. So could it be the people from the Zhao family? Or could it be said that the death of these core elders was also secretly arranged by the Zhao family? Yang Chun and Elder Lee of the Mysterious Heaven sect both knew that half of it was them taking the initiative to get rid of dissidents, but the other half was hard to say whether it was a coincidence or a conspiracy. Because of the mysterious appearance of the Zhao family, the sect didn't even dare to completely trust their own core elders. They had to spend a long time to screen them one by one. When it involved the higher-ups, the sect was much more cautious. This was also one of the reasons why the big sect didn't directly make a move, even though they had discovered hundreds of small sects. Yang Chun was very clear about the problem, but he didn't expect it to be this serious. In his previous life, he had never heard of any sect that was particularly outstanding or even took the initiative to jump out and disagree with everyone. So he had neglected this problem. Now that Elder Lee had mentioned it, Yang Chun also realized the seriousness of the problem. In his previous life, no one had jumped out because no one had unlocked the Zhao family seal. Even the friend he knew was an expert who had unlocked the seal after the demonic calamity. There was clearly a causal relationship. If it wasn't for Yang Chun unlocking the Zhao family seal, the dragon puppet wouldn't have appeared. Without the dragon puppet, Zhao Haoshuan and his son wouldn't have jumped out. Speaking of which, it seemed like he was the one who had triggered a lot of hidden bombs. According to this logic, it seemed like the tension in the sect wasn't groundless. Who would have thought that an elder that the sect had always trusted was a member of the Zhao family? Elder Lee had only told Yang Chun this to remind him to be careful. The main purpose of this visit was to get the medicinal pills refined by Yang Chun, and the other was to discuss the details of the follow-up operation with Yang Chun again. Taking control of the Mysterious Heaven sect was a very important matter, and he couldn't fail because of a little negligence. At that time, it would be a small matter if the matter was exposed, but Elder Lee would be accused of plotting against the sect master, betraying the sect, and losing his reputation. Elder Lee had already roped in a few of the core higher-ups. Hall Leader Liu had always been on Elder Lee's side, and the new substitute core elder was also recommended by Elder Lee. Naturally, he would stand on Elder Lee's side. There were also two other elders who had accepted the benefits of Elder Lee's divine perching jade. Even if they wouldn't openly support him, they definitely wouldn't cause trouble for Elder Lee. Only the other three core elders, one old and two new, seemed to be standing on the opposite side of Elder Lee. However, the three of them were fighting on their own. If something happened to the sect master, the three scattered forces would not be able to compete with Elder Lee. Elder Lee had already won over a lot of Grand Supreme experts, and Yang Chen's divine perching jade was indeed a killing weapon that couldn't be refused. Even if the Grand Supreme Mystic Immortal experts were given a piece of divine perching jade, no one would think that there was too much of it. This was especially true after the Zhao family attacked the experts who were recuperating. If they had a piece of divine perching jade, they could immediately leave their primordial spirit after resurrection, and they wouldn't be unable to resurrect again. It could be said that a piece of divine perching jade was equivalent to one's life. No matter how strong an expert was, they wouldn't be able to resist such a temptation. Only Yang Chun and Yang Chen's grandmaster, Elder Lee, could take out divine perching jade. In front of Yang Chun, Elder Lee did not hide his own plan and carefully explained his own steps to Yang Chun one by one. He considered the cause and effect of every step, especially the reactions of the others after the sect master's accident. He made detailed assumptions and deductions according to each person's personality. He couldn't be careless. If he schemed for so long and ended up helping others, wouldn't it be a big joke? Among the newly added elders, one of them is the current medicine hall master. Yang Chun heard a familiar name from Elder Lee's words and couldn't help but ask. Elder Lee did not worry about him and directly nodded his head. This wasn't a secret, and he could find out with a little inquiry. He just couldn't figure out why Yang Chun valued this medicine hall master so much. The memory of the medicine hall master of the Mysterious Heaven sect flashed in Yang Chen's mind. It seemed that after the demonic calamity, the figure of the medicine hall master flashed in the next major event that swept the spiritual realm. At that time, the Mysterious Heaven sect seemed to be the same as this life. Because of the demonic calamity in the trial ground, there were heavy casualties, and he became a core member of the Mysterious Heaven sect. Interesting Yang Chun felt that something was wrong. After thinking about it, he asked elderly, Master Ancestor, is he now researching a new kind of medicinal pill that has the effect of the questioning inner heart pill, but maybe several times more effective than the questioning inner heart pill? How do you know? Elderly was shocked and looked at Yang Chun in surprise. This was the secret of the mysterious heaven sect. The medicine hall master had been researching this new kind of pill for hundreds of years, and it had been going on for hundreds of years. He was on the verge of success. The mysterious heaven sect blocked the news of this matter, and it was even more secretive than Yang Chen's identity. How did Yang Chen know? Could it be that Yang Chun consciously spied on the secrets of the mysterious heaven sect? The medicine hall master was obsessed with research and had always been loyal to the sect. He had made great achievements in alchemy and was the idol of almost all the alchemists in the sect. This was also one of the reasons why he was able to be added to the core members of the sect this time. He had power, but no desire for power. This kind of talent was what the core members of the sect wanted to see the most, and it was also what competitors liked the most. But now, Yang Chun had actually directly raised the issue of paying extra attention to him. While Elderly was suspicious of Yang Chun, he couldn't help but have a trace of suspicion about this Hall Master Zhu. Grandmaster, this disciple is just guessing. After getting a positive answer from Elderly, Yang Chun seemed to have discovered something happy. We want Sect Master Li to ascend as soon as possible, and I'm afraid some people have the same idea. Elderly was shocked on the spot. Even though he was already a scheming person, he was still so scared that he almost jumped up. Moreover, they may not only want the sect master to ascend, but it is very likely that all the core members of the sect will ascend. Yang Chun added another sentence. Chapter 1909. This was not because Yang Chun was deliberately trying to scare Elderly, but because Yang Chun remembered that in his previous life, before Yang Chun ascended, the core higher-ups of the mysterious heaven sect had already changed. Although Hall Master Zhu of the Medicinal Hall was not the sect master among the core higher-ups, except for Sect Master Li, who had ascended from a mortal world, the others were all people who had nothing to do with the core higher-ups of the mortal world. In this kind of sect inheritance in the three realms, there was generally an unspoken rule that those who became sect masters in the mortal world would definitely inherit the position of sect master in the spiritual realm. To expand this unspoken rule, the core higher-ups of the sect in the mortal world basically ascended to the spiritual realm and immortal realm, and they would also become higher-ups of the sect. However, this inheritance between the higher-ups needed to last for a period of time, at least until the higher-ups of the sect who had just ascended had reached a certain level of cultivation and experience before they could take charge of the sect. According to this unspoken rule, Sect Master Li and the others in the mortal world would have no problem becoming the core higher-ups of the mysterious heaven sect. In fact, this was how things developed in his previous life, and Sect Master Li still became the sect master of the spiritual realm. However, the strange thing was that in his previous life, the other core higher-ups of the Taishaman in the mortal world did not all inherit the positions of the higher-ups of the sect. As the memories in Yang Chen's mind went through bit by bit, it seemed that those people had all met with accidents. At the beginning of the demonic calamity in the spiritual realm, 3 of them died. They all happened to be in the trial grounds at that time, and they were the first to bear the brunt of the outbreak of the monster tide. The remaining few also met with accidents later on, and only Sect Master Li persisted to the end. When Sect Master Li became the Sect Master, Hall Master Zhu was already the Grand Elder, but it seemed that he was one of the few big shots in the mysterious heaven sect that even Sect Master Li had to respect him. Combined with this life, it seemed that Hall Master Zhu's influence in the mysterious heaven sect continued after the demonic calamity in the spiritual realm until Yang Chen ascended. Even after Yang Chen ascended, Hall Master Zhu still guarded the mysterious heaven sect as the Grand Elder. He worked hard and made great contributions. What kind of person was Elderly? Anyone who could become a core elder in the mysterious heaven sect was not simple. However, after hearing Yang Chen's words, he immediately thought of more things. This Hall Master Zhu seemed to really have a good idea. It seemed to be an open and above-board plot, which was to research an extraordinary pill that could greatly enhance the strength of the upper echelons. Of course, at the same time, all those who had taken the medicine were one step closer to transcending their tribulations and ascending. There was no way to reprimand him at all. What was the ultimate goal of every cultivator? Wasn't it to improve their own cultivation? With such a pill that only belonged to the mysterious heaven sect, every disciple would only feel grateful after taking it. Why would they doubt or resent it? In other aspects, Home Master Zhu's performance had always been conforming to the rules, and there was nothing outstanding about him. Even if Elderly wanted to grab hold of a weakness, he would not be able to. Could it be that Elderly could use the fact that Elderly wanted to concoct a brand new pill to deal with Home Master Zhu? However, what Yang Chen said was very reasonable. At the very least, Elderly already had a lot of doubts in his heart. Elderly had already spread the news that he wanted to research this pill hundreds of years ago, and he had put in a lot of effort for hundreds of years. He was able to keep his composure, so he must be a difficult opponent to deal with. When the time came, the pill refined by Elderly would have excellent effects on the disciples, and he would give it to the upper echelons to use. Not only would he owe them a big favor, but he would also be able to indirectly achieve his goal. Elderly was indeed a good schemer, a good method to silently achieve his goal. He was definitely an expert in this aspect. The key was that Elderly would not fight for the position of sect master immediately. He would send away the other upper echelons one by one while he became the most senior and had the highest status. Even if he wasn't the sect master, his words would be similar to the sect masters. This was clearly him indirectly controlling the mysterious heaven sect. Facing such an opponent, Elderly suddenly felt like a mouse trying to pull a turtle, but he didn't know where to start. If he directly told Sect Master Wang and the others, they probably wouldn't believe him at all. Instead, they would wonder why he was thinking this way. This kind of troublesome opponent, it seemed like only Elderly, who had the same thoughts, would be able to understand the other party's intentions. Other people would not have such a dark mentality. Yang Chun looked at Elderly, who seemed to be at his wit's end, and couldn't help but ask, "Ancestor, does this Home Master Zhu know about this disciple's identity?" He doesn't know. This time, Elderly's answer was very certain. The sect master said that your identity is top secret. If you know, then keep it to yourself. If you don't know, then don't ever know. Although he is the new core, no one will break the taboo and tell him about your identity. At first, Yangchen was a bit worried. If this Home Master Zhu was really from the Zhao family and knew his identity, it would not be easy for him to fan the flames between the mysterious heaven sect and the Zhao family. Now that Elderly said this, Yang Chun felt a lot more at ease. As long as the other party didn't know his identity, it was possible to force out the other party's true intentions. Since he could make the demonic calamity start ahead of time, it was obvious that he had already broken the Zhao family's arrangements. As such, Home Master Zhu's wishful thinking might not work. After hundreds of years of research, he still hadn't succeeded. As far as Yang Chen knew, the unique medicinal pill of the profound heaven sect, called the 7 Ingenious Barrier-Breaking Pill, should have been studied by Home Master Zhu for more than 1,000 years. Now he simply could not come up with a perfect medicinal pill. Since this was the case, as long as he found a way to make Home Master Zhu start ahead of time, Yang Chun might be able to easily achieve his goal without Elderly risking being criticized. Since this is the case, this disciple has an idea. After Yang Chun pondered for a while, he suddenly thought of something. He slapped his thigh and said excitedly, "Ancestor, can you help me look at it?" In front of Elderly, Yang Chun had to pay attention to the way he spoke. At the very least, he had to make Elderly feel that this was his idea and not his own. This was very important. What idea? Elderly's eyes lit up. It seemed that he had made the right decision to discuss this matter with his grand disciple, Yang Chun. Not only had Yang Chun reminded him of his oversight, but he had also found a way to make a breakthrough. He had to have this grand disciple. Right now, this pill has not been thoroughly studied, but there must be a preliminary sample. Yang Chen looked at Elderly's reaction while adjusting his words. If we can force Home Master Zhu's arrangements ahead of time, then Home Master Zhu might have to take a risk with this imperfect pill. Chapter 1910. Elderly was very clear about this. Yang Chun had warned everyone about the possibility of the devil tribulation. It was because he had destroyed the Zhao family's sealing formation that the Zhao family's arrangements were triggered in advance. If it wasn't for this, the devil tribulation might have been even more powerful and affected a wider area. To be able to cultivate to Elder Li's level, there wasn't a single expert who didn't understand the reasoning behind this. If it could really achieve the effect that Yang Chun had said, Leader Zhu might really take the risk. The problem was how to force Leader Zhu to take the risk out of desperation. This was the most important thing. How do we force him? What do we use to force him? Elderly asked the most important question. If Leader Zhu is from the Zhao family, then I believe he must care about the Zhao family's safety. Yang Chun said, right now, no one knows where the Zhao family is. If we release the news that we know where the Zhao family is, do you think he will be worried? You know where the Zhao family is? Elderly was concerned about this question and couldn't help but ask. I can't be sure. It's just a rough guess. Yang Chun didn't deny it, but he didn't say it with certainty. He only said that it was just a guess. So many sect members have been searching for hundreds and thousands of years, but we still haven't found any clues. Maybe what we lack is a possible direction. Elderly nodded. After sighing for a while, he asked Yang Chun, where do you think they are? Grandmaster, you guys worry about too many things. You have to think about everything all the time, so you've overlooked some corners. Of course, Yang Chun couldn't come up and say that he was powerful enough to find a flaw. He had to first let Elderly listen to him comfortably before he could slowly say his own guess. Otherwise, wouldn't it seem that the seniors were unworthy of their reputation? Elderly was very satisfied with Yang Chun's explanation. He smiled and nodded. He even happily drank a cup of wine that Yang Chun had already poured for him. To tell the truth, the one Elderly was looking forward to the most was his descendant, the Taishaman of the mortal world, Sect Leader Li. However, since Sect Master Li had already perished, then Yang Chun, Sect Master Li's direct disciple, had become the one that Elderly was most optimistic about. If Sect Leader Li was thrown out as a middleman, Elderly wanted to personally accept Yang Chun as a disciple. He had been in the mysterious Heaven sect for so many years, and he had taught quite a few disciples. However, the only one who could truly satisfy him was this junior in front of him. Yang Chun was really good at talking. Instead of looking at his own ideas and suggestions, he had to first consider the thoughts and situation of the elders and try his best not to embarrass them. Just this bit of filial piety was enough to leave others far behind. This kind of gratitude and filial piety of the younger generation was what the ancestors were willing to support and accept. Overlooked corners? Elderly tried hard to think of the places that had not been affected by the devil calamity. He wondered if he and Sect Leader Wang had not considered everything. However, after thinking about it for a while, he still felt that their arrangements had not been overlooked. They had almost covered the entire area. Suddenly, Elderly thought of a place. This place had never been specifically targeted. Could it be here? Could it be that we have overlooked the hatred parting sea? Elderly asked with great interest, and his eyes began to shine. The hatred parting sea was the territory of Chunyang Palace. When Yang Chun was seeking territory, there were 3 places: Sunset Rock, Linyang River, and the hatred parting sea. The 3 places were closely connected. After the outbreak of the devil calamity, countless cultivators gathered at Sunset Rock and Linyang River. In addition, the 5 major sect was not far from Sheeping Mountain. It was almost impossible for the Zhou family to hide in these 2 places. In particular, after the Chunyang Palace's mountain gate was destroyed, the 5 major sect directly sent people to plow the Sunset Rock and Linyang River. The investigation was so detailed that it was almost like combing one's hair with a comb. It was impossible for the Zhao family to hide in these 2 places. However, the hatred parting sea was different. Because it was on the sea, there were no big islands, and there were no large groups of cultivators gathered there. Relatively speaking, no one thought too much about this sea area. Moreover, the hatred parting sea was the territory of Chunyang Palace. Whether it was the 5 major sect or the cultivators gathered at Linyang River, Out of gratitude, they would not think too much about the hatred-parting sea. In this way, the hatred-parting sea was really a place that had been neglected. The more elderly thought about it, the more excited he became. He almost sent a large number of people to turn the hatred-parting sea upside down. Unexpectedly, the Zhao family had hidden so cleverly. They even used Yang Chen's favor to consider it. They were really cunning. Hearing that elderly actually mentioned the hatred-parting sea, Yang Chen did not know whether to cry or laugh. How strange was this medicine to think of the hatred-parting sea. If it was the hatred-parting sea, didn't it mean that Yang Chen had been related to the Zhao family from the beginning? However, after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that Elder Li's thinking was somewhat reasonable. They had indeed neglected this place. Even Yang Chen had not carefully considered whether there would be the Zhao family in the hatred-parting sea. Of course, Yang Chen could be sure that it was not the territory of the Zhao family. Otherwise, Chunyang Palace had always been at the edge of the Zhao family and could be swallowed up at any time. Grandmaster really has a keen eye. In any case, Yang Chen first complimented him. He could not directly say that it was wrong and throw Elder Li's judgment out the door, right? However, I am afraid that the Zhao family is really not in the hatred-parting sea. Yang Chen explained with a wry smile. Although there are relatively few cultivators in the hatred-parting sea, over the years, there have been at least 900,000 people who have cultivated in the hatred-parting sea. If the Zhao family were there, they would have been found out long ago. The number of people in the hatred-parting sea was small compared to the tens of millions of cultivators in Linyang River, but the actual number was not small at all. Just as Yang Chen said, there were at least 900,000, if not 1 million. How could there be no clues under so many eyes? Well, what you said makes sense. Elder Li thought about it carefully and agreed with Yang Chen. At the same time, he also realized that if it was the hatred-parting sea, he was afraid that Yang Chen would definitely not be able to escape responsibility. Since Yang Chen could confide in him, he definitely would not have anything to do with the Zhao family. Actually, there's still a place that Grandmaster and you have not noticed. Yang Chen could only remind him again. It was not that he did not want to say it directly, but he was waiting for Elder Li to think about it himself. That was the best result, and it could also show Elder Li's foresight and wisdom. He had to remind him, Grandmaster, sometimes the most dangerous place is actually the safest. After all, Elder Li was not stupid. He quickly guessed what Yang Chen meant and said directly, "You were talking about the trial ground?" Chapter 19:11. The trial ground was a place that all the major sects had neglected. Before the devil tribulation, the trial ground had been occupied by all the major sects. Outsiders could not enter at all. After the devil tribulation began, it was the core area of the monster tide. Any monster that jumped out was at least at the Xian Immortal level. As long as one was a cultivator, there was no way they could get close to it. Elder Li was someone who knew the inside story. Therefore, he knew very well that even before the devil tribulation, the cultivators of the major sect had never been able to get close to the core area of the trial ground. The cultivation level of the monsters there was so strong that it was rare in the world. No sect was willing to pay the price of blood just to see what was there. It was not that there were no experts who entered the core area with magic treasures that could conceal their divine sense. However, they only entered and never came out. Just the number of grand supreme mystic immortal experts that each sect had lost in the core area of the trial ground was no less than hundreds. The strongest one was even at the 8th stage of the Xian immortal level. However, he still did not come out after entering. No sect could afford to completely control the trial ground. Not even the super sect could do it. Even if all the super sect cooperated, they could not do it. Therefore, they could only cooperate to seal the area and let their disciples train in suitable areas in the trial ground. However, they did not dare to enter the core area. In other words, ever since the sect discovered the trial ground and the sect cooperated to seal the trial ground, the major sects had never known what was in the core area of the trial ground. If there was a place in the spiritual world that had not been controlled by the major sect, it would be this place. Previously, no one had ever doubted this place. Since the super experts of the major sect could only enter and not come out, It was impossible for cultivators to exist in that area. This had become common sense in everyone's mind. However, after being reminded by Yang Chun, Elderly suddenly realized that things did not seem to be that simple. The major sect could not enter the core area of the trial ground. However, it did not mean that no cultivators could enter. The Zhao family might be an exception. Now, the trial grounds were a conspiracy set up by the ancestors of the Zhao family. It was already a consensus among all the major sects that this was a conspiracy set up by the ancestors of the Zhao family. This was fully proven after the outbreak of the Devil Tribulation. Whether it was the unsealed 9 Xian Immortal experts outside or the dragon puppet found in the trial grounds, they were all solid evidence. Since the trial grounds were arranged by the Zhao family's ancestor, then the Zhao family's ancestor definitely had the ability to enter the core area. There was no doubt about this. The major sect had been exploring the areas that had not been affected by the Devil Tribulation at the beginning. However, they had never thought that the core area of the trial ground could also be considered as a part that had not been affected. It was easy to imagine what the core of the trial ground was like before and after the demonic calamity. There was almost no difference. In any case, there was an endless stream of powerful demonic beasts. There were no changes, which meant that he wouldn't be affected at all, so he definitely wouldn't be affected. Elderly had already stood up excitedly because he thought of more things. He didn't care about his image and started to pace around in Yang Chen's room out of habit. The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. The greatest secret of the spiritual realm was about to be unraveled by Elderly, and the greatest credit for finding the Zhao family was also going to be taken by Elderly. How could Elderly not be excited about such a world-renowned achievement? As for the fact that this conclusion was based on Yang Chen's conjecture, it wasn't important. With Yang Chen's current situation, he would definitely be happy to see his grandmaster occupy an even more important position in the sect. Moreover, Yang Chen's situation did not allow him to be in the limelight again. This credit must belong to Elderly, and it could only belong to Elderly. Grandmaster's eyes are as bright as torches. The Zhao family will definitely have nowhere to hide this time. Sure enough, Yang Chun very cooperatively began to praise Elderly. It was clear that he was very tactful and did not want to take the credit for himself. Elderly understood this point very well. Otherwise, why would Yang Chun have to be so evasive and not say his guess directly? Instead, he kept leading Elderly to say it himself. All right. Elderly excitedly took 2 more steps and then rushed back to his seat. He picked up the wine cup that Yang Chun had just filled and drank it in one gulp. He stretched out his hand and patted Yang Chun's shoulder twice as he loudly praised him. After praising him, Elderly still felt that it wasn't enough. He reached out and searched his body. A universe bag immediately appeared in his hand. Without even looking at it, he directly threw the universe bag at Yang Chun and loudly said, "Take it. This is the good stuff that the sect left behind after killing all these years. See if there's anything you can use." Elderly was already a little excited at the moment. Yang Chun quietly took the Chinquan bag and put it away. Then he coughed a little bit to remind Elderly not to lose his composure. The good stuff that the mysterious Heaven sect collected was definitely the best of the best. Yang Chun had no intention of refusing it. He didn't even show any politeness and directly put it away. This was a reward that Elderly gave to a junior based on merit. He didn't dare to refuse a gift from an elder, so Yang Chun accepted it with a clear conscience. After Yang Chun coughed, Elderly finally withdrew the excitement on his face and slowly calmed down. After drinking another mouthful of wine, Elderly returned to being as calm as a mountain. Good. Elderly once again praised Yang Chun, but his tone was different. The meaning behind it seemed to be even more satisfied than when he patted Yang Chun's shoulder. Elderly was once again satisfied with Yang Chun, a junior disciple of the younger generation. After calming down, Elderly's mind began to churn. How could he use this information to make Home Master Zhu expose himself? How could he make Home Master Zhu take action ahead of time and then help Elderly? Master Ancestor, if Home Master Zhu uses a medicinal pill that has not been fully researched for the sect master, Master Ancestor may become the savior of the sect master. Yang Chan seemed to have already had a plan in mind, and took advantage of this to say it. In addition to those 2 pills, Disciple will also give Martial Ancestor a few 6 Revolution Lingji Jade pills and 6 Revolution Questioning Inner Heart pills, as well as 2,000-year pills. As Yang Chen spoke, he took out the pills he had already prepared. As long as the sect master notices that something is wrong, Martial Ancestor can use these pills to save the sect master. Elderly took the pills and asked with a frown, "What if the sect master doesn't ascend after he is cured?" 2,000-year pills and the 1,000-year pill wrapped in the marrow accumulation pill should be enough for the sect master to ascend. Yang Chun said with certainty, "I will tell the sect master ahead of time that the Lingji Jade pill might not be able to completely cure the sect master. It can only increase the sect master's cultivation to save his life." Chapter 19:12. Hall Master Zhu is not a fool. He gave the problematic elixir to the sect master. Isn't he afraid of exposing himself directly? Elderly's brain was spinning at this moment, and he began to think about the details. The elixir is just imperfect. It's not that it has no effect. Yang Chun showed the unique confidence of an alchemy master at this moment. He smiled and said, "If Disciple guessed correctly, this elixir should be strengthened on the basis of the Questioning Inner Heart pill. According to Disciple's understanding of the Questioning Inner Heart pill, if you want to improve the efficacy of the Questioning Inner Heart pill by several times, you must use 2 of the medicinal herbs." In the way of alchemy, Elderly couldn't catch up with Yang Chun even if he flattered horse. At this time, when Yang Chun spoke, Elderly was very tactful and only listened. Ice Heart Grass and Misty Flame Flower. These 2 medicinal herbs are yin and yang. They must be in just the right balance in order to achieve the efficacy. Yang Chun continued, "In order to improve the efficacy of the elixir, the effects of these 2 main medicinal herbs must be stimulated. So Disciple concluded that Hall Master Zhu must have used the blood of the devouring ice snake to forcibly improve the efficacy. Master Ancestor, after the outbreak of the demonic calamity, Hall Master Zhu must have asked the sect to collect a lot of devouring ice snakes, right?" Elderly looked at Yang Chun as if he was looking at an immortal. There was still some disbelief. It took a while for him to return to normal. Elderly shook his head with an expression of admiration and said, "If it wasn't for the fact that this old man knows that you've always been in closed-door cultivation and have never come out, and that you've never heard of Hall Master Zhu before, this old man would have suspected that you placed a spy in the mysterious heaven sect to keep an eye on Hall Master Zhu. Disciple just has some insights in alchemy. I don't deserve the praise of Master Ancestor." Yang Chun unceremoniously regarded Elder Li's words as a compliment to himself and said with a thick face, "In the past, Hall Master Zhu proudly said that it took him 300 years to discover that the blood of the devouring ice snake could improve the efficacy of the Questioning Inner Heart pill. The sect's higher-ups thought that Hall Master Zhu was going to refine a brand new elixir. Elderly had no choice but to give in. He directly shook his head and said, "I didn't expect that you only needed to guess what type of medicinal pill he wanted to refine, and you already knew what medicinal ingredients he used. If the alchemy experts in the sect were to find out about this, I wonder how they would worship him. It's just that I'm lucky. When I was in the training grounds, I encountered an ice-devouring snake." Yang Chun explained with a smile. "However, I still don't have a clue on how to neutralize the scattered spiritual energy caused by the devouring ice snake activating the ice heart grass and mist fire flower. Will there be a problem of spiritual power scattering?" Elderly now wholeheartedly wanted to replace sect leader Wang, so he would not let go of any opportunity that could help him realize his dream. If Hall Master Zhu's pill had this hidden danger, then it could be used. Hall Master Zhu must have found a way to suppress it after studying it for so long. Yang Chan still guessed, but this disciple estimates that what Hall Master Zhu found is definitely just a stopgap measure, and it is impossible to perfectly solve the spiritual power scattering caused by the backlash of this medicinal pill. When the effect of the Questioning Inner Heart pill was exerted 10 times, suddenly the spiritual power was not under control. No matter how strong the person was, it was impossible to be fine. If it was light, it would be demonic, and if it was heavy, it would be serious. There would be no other results. If the sect leader had a problem, Elderly relied on Yang Chen's medicinal pill to pull sect leader Wang back from the line of life and death, and also let him add 3,000 years of cultivation base. If it happened suddenly, it would definitely trigger the heavenly tribulation. At that time, even if sect leader Wang didn't want to ascend, he could only ascend without preparation. Will there definitely be a backlash? Elderly asked a key question again. Under normal circumstances, it is almost impossible. Yang Chen replied, and then added a prerequisite: if Hall Master Zhu has found a way to suppress it. Didn't you say it was not perfect? How can there be no backlash? Elderly didn't understand and asked anxiously. This disciple has seen the sect's alchemy classics brought by the master ancestor. Yang Chen explained with a smile. The medicinal material that is recorded to neutralize the blood of the ice snake is the exquisite root. But this disciple learned from another volume of alchemy classics that is not from the sect that the exquisite root cannot perfectly neutralize the blood of the ice snake. As long as there is a little musk mixed, there will be a problem. Musk was the most common spice, and most fragrances contain this ingredient. Elderly knew sect leader Wang's habit. When he was cultivating alone, he always liked to light a stick of incense. It may not be a big problem for others, but for sect leader Wang, this was a fatal danger. Will he definitely use this kind of medicinal pill? Elderly still wanted to determine the complete action plan and asked again. If Master Ancestor brought back this news and warned everyone not to beat the grass and alert the snake, and limited it to only a few of you, this disciple feels that if Hall Master Zhu wants to solve the problem quietly, the last way is to let Master Ancestor and you ascend normally. Yang Chen thought for a while and said with certainty, "It is best if it is in a hurry and you don't even have time to explain. Anyway, no one can get close to the core of the trial ground. Even if everyone is fully prepared, it will take hundreds of years. Hall Master Zhu has enough time to let Master Ancestor and you ascend one by one." Yang Chen said with a smile, "If there is a time limit for taking the medicinal pill personally refined by the Medicine Hall Master, and it must be taken at a certain time to not be wasted, then there is almost no flaw. Normal medicinal pills in the sect definitely can't have this effect, but the new medicinal pill that Hall Master Zhu has spent hundreds of years researching may be feasible." Yang Chen perfected his own inference and said, "It is not enough to just improve the state of mind cultivation. It is best to have medicinal pills that increase cultivation. If you want to achieve this effect, you can only obtain the demonic bead from the demon continent in Immortal world. This disciple has already exchanged most of the demonic beads in Immortal world. The number of demonic beads that can allow a heaven immortal to ascend is definitely not a small number. This disciple can't think of any other place besides the Zhao family that can take out a large number of demonic beads." Another inference of evidence, and Yang Chen did not hide anything. Elderly was so shocked by Yang Chen's series of guesses and inferences that he didn't know what to say. It was as if Yang Chen was personally in charge of everything. Although it was all speculation, when he thought about it carefully, it was completely reasonable. If it wasn't for Yang Chen's reminder, maybe the other core members of the sect would still thank Hall Master Zhu for his kindness and owe him a big favor. In this way, if there is really a problem with Hall Master Zhu, Elderly might be able to truly become the sect master Li of the mysterious heaven sect in 100 or 200 years at most. Chapter 19:13. Elderly went back with a smile from the bottom of his heart. Of course, on the surface, he looked flustered and exasperated. In the eyes of outsiders, Elderly came here this time to congratulate and to ask for alchemy. According to Yang Chen's consistent personality of not being at a disadvantage, coupled with the fact that the relationship between Chunyang Palace and Xiantian sect was not very harmonious, Elderly's performance was clearly angry after being extorted by Yang Chen. For Elderly, this kind of cheap performance was very simple, and it was also good for Yang Chen. His pretentiousness, on the one hand, made everyone believe that the gap between Xiantian sect and Chunyang Palace was getting bigger and bigger. On the other hand, it was also indirectly raising the price for Yang Chen. Representatives of other sect were happy to see Xintian sect suffer a loss in the hands of Yangchun. This kind of happy thing had happened more than once or twice in the mortal world, and each time it could make all sect happy for a long time. Even if the sect had to pay a little more than usual for this, everyone also liked to see Xintian sect's embarrassment. And many people understood that Yangchun, the younger generation, would not be so greedy. Although it was announced that other sect had paid the same price as Xintian sect, there was always a discount every time. The sect got the elixir they wanted, and at the same time, they also witnessed Yangchun really restore his human immortal cultivation, which was enough. The youngest 6th grade alchemist in the spiritual world, an alchemy grandmaster with a promising future and a good relationship with all sect. As long as they paid a little spirit stones or medicinal materials, they could buy life-saving elixir. Was there a better result than this? The palace master and other high-level members of Chunyang Palace were also curious. How many things did Yang Chun extort from elderly that could make the core elder of Xintian's sect look like that? Fortunately, Yang Chun didn't tell the truth. He didn't take out the Chinquan bag filled with the essence of the demonic beast corpse that elderly directly threw to Yang Chun. He only said a price that wasn't too outrageous, but was still enough to make one feel pain. Even so, the palace master and the others were already happy from ear to ear. For so many years, only Chunyang Palace had been able to dig out a piece of meat from the mouth of Xintian's sect. It had become the norm for all parties to ask for pills from Yang Chun. It was even more so after Yang Chun became a 6th grade alchemist. No one would think there was any problem. Just the 6 revolutions marrow pill alone was enough to make countless people drool. There was no longer a need for Yang Chun to do anything else. All he needed to do was spread the news and let the cultivators from the other sect know that Yang Chun had returned. That was enough. Yang Chun didn't even think about killing demonic beasts to gain experience. He just stayed in the sect, cultivating and concocting pills at the same time. Compared with the liveliness of Chunyang Palace, Elder Li's return to Xintian's sect was a bit low-key. Along the way, the accompanying disciples of the profound heaven sect did not dare to speak loudly, for fear of angering Elder Li and causing disaster to the fish in the moat. In their hearts, they could not help but scold the culprit, Yang Chun. Elder Li had perfected the next plan several times in his heart. After discussing it with Yang Chun, basically as long as there was a problem with Hall Master Zhu, he would be exposed under the arrangement of Elder Li. Returning to Xintian's sect, which was still in Sheeping Mountain, Elder Li did not alarm others. He just met with Sect Master Wang and Hall Master Lu, and then there was no more. Everything seemed very calm. Whether it was the situation outside or inside Xintian's sect, it all seemed very natural. The cultivators were regaining the lost territory little by little, and Xintian's sect was preparing to move the sect from the Sheeping Mountain branch back to the original mountain gate. Everything was going according to plan. Except for Elder Li, no one knew that a storm was brewing inside Xintian's sect. Perhaps Yang Chun was also an insider, but when Elder Li planned to start, Yang Chun didn't know the specifics. Several of Elder Li's confidants were secretly investigating the medicinal materials that Hall Master Zhu needed in the past few hundred years. As Yang Chun expected, the name of the ice-devouring snake appeared on Hall Master Zhu's list of medicinal materials. As long as the pill recipe of the questioning inner heart pill was simply linked with Hall Master Zhu's list of medicinal materials, it was easy to see the relationship between the two. The list of medicinal materials used by Hall Master Zhu, even if it was ordered by Elder Li, still took a lot of effort to get it. When the two confidants reported the difficulty of getting this list of medicinal materials to Elder Li completely believed that Yang Chun did not monitor Hall Master Zhu's actions. Because of this, Elder Li once again praised Yang Chun's alchemy level. Sure enough, he was worthy of being the alchemy master with the best aptitude and the greatest potential for thousands of years. Just by relying on the target direction of a medicinal effect, he could infer so much content from the medicinal materials. His understanding of alchemy could be said to be earth-shattering. The first part was all guessed by Yang Chun. Even Elder Li once again met Hall Master Zhu casually and asked about the progress of Home Master Zhu's new drug research. The answer given by Home Master Zhu was the same as Yang Chen's previous speculation. If Elderly didn't know very well that Yang Chen couldn't and didn't have the ability to monitor Home Master Zhu, he would be surprised that Home Master Zhu cooperated with Yang Chen's speculation. Now, since it was so in line with the worst guess, Home Master Zhu's suspicion became more and more big. Elderly was very calm. After leaving Qinyang Palace and returning to the sect, he behaved himself for 10 years without any signs of an outburst. Not to mention anything else, just the time difference made it impossible for anyone to suspect Yang Chen. Elderly even personally went out and spent another 10 years to personally kill the beasts. Under the protection of several supreme mystic immortal elders, he went deep into the original trial ground to explore before returning to the mysterious Heaven sect. As soon as he returned to the mysterious Heaven sect, Elderly immediately convened a meeting with the core members of the mysterious Heaven sect. It happened so suddenly that everyone didn't even know why Elderly was so anxious, and they had no clue what to discuss. This matter is very important, and I don't dare to make a complete judgment, so I asked Sect Master and a few others to discuss it together. Elderly spoke very politely, but the expression on his face fully showed how serious Elderly was at the moment. What exactly is the matter? Sect Master Wang also became serious and asked in a deep voice, "Don't be anxious, speak slowly. I found something this time." So, I specially asked a few mystic immortal elders to escort me to the original trial ground. Elderly said as his eyes casually swept across the crowd. His gaze swept across Hall Master Zhu's body, not stopping at all. In the past, we all thought that the Zhao family was definitely in a place that was not affected by the demonic calamity, but we looked all over the world and overlooked a place. Elderly finally expressed his opinion. His gaze swept across Hall Master Zhu's wrist and turned to Sect Master Wang. Chapter 1914. Trial Grounds. They were all old and cunning people. Elderly only said the beginning, but everyone immediately guessed the result. It is the training grounds. Elderly nodded his head heavily and gave his answer. The most dangerous place was the safest. The more familiar a place was, the easier it was to overlook it. What flashed through everyone's mind was this kind of trick that played with people's hearts. Everyone's faces were full of brilliance. I happened to find traces of cultivator activity there. Elderly didn't wait for everyone to guess and directly gave his evidence. Logically speaking, no expert from the sect would go to the trial grounds for no reason. All of the cultivators were recovering their lost land step by step. There was still some distance to the trial grounds, and no one could jump over a large area occupied by demon beasts to train in the innermost area. Even if it was an expert at the Xian immortal level, killing demon beasts at the front line was enough for them to gain experience. There was no need for them to take the risk of entering the original trial grounds. If there were traces of cultivator activity, it meant that there were cultivators inside. Since it wasn't an expert from a large sect or a cultivator who came to gain experience, then the remaining possibilities were obvious. This wasn't some rumor, but something that Elderly, the core elder, had seen with his own eyes. Naturally, the higher-ups of the mysterious Heaven sect didn't doubt it. Whether it was Elderly's deduction based on facts or everyone's method of playing with people's hearts, they were all shockingly consistent. The Zhao family's headquarters was most likely at the core of the trial grounds. Because no one had entered before, it would be easy to hide a sect with hundreds of thousands of people in that area, even if it was 10 times larger. For a moment, the higher-ups who heard the news all gnashed their teeth and rubbed their palms. The Zhao family had harmed the mysterious Heaven sect too ruthlessly, and the two sides were irreconcilable. Now that they knew where they were most likely to be hiding, everyone wished they could immediately find the Zhao family's location and slaughter the entire Zhao family. An unnatural smile flashed across Hall Master Zhu's face. Then, his expression turned into one of hatred like everyone else's, and there didn't seem to be anything wrong. Unfortunately, Hall Master Zhu did not realize that everything about him had been completely guessed. All of his actions after hearing the news had been seen by Elderly without missing a single detail, and he remembered it all. This was a matter of great importance. Currently, the trial grounds were still occupied by the monstrous beasts. Even if the various sects killed all the monstrous beasts in the trial grounds, everyone understood that it was impossible to kill all the monstrous beasts in the trial grounds. In fact, even if all the major sects' forces were gathered at the trial grounds core, they would not be able to approach it without paying a high price with their lives. In this kind of situation, even if Elderly had already guessed and discovered traces of the Zhao family, it would not be an easy task to prove it. At the very least, there was no hope in the next 1 or 200 years. In addition, there was a very real problem. Even if they found the location of the Zhao family, without the Zhao family's means, how could the masters of the various sect enter the core of the trial ground and launch an attack on the Zhao family? These were all problems that had to be considered, especially for the mysterious Heaven sect, which viewed the Zhao family as an irreconcilable enemy. They had to think about how to deal with these problems. Elderly, who else did you tell about this to? Before Sect Master Wang could speak, Hall Master Zhu had already rushed to ask. This is a very important matter. How could I dare to tell outsiders? Elderly shook his head and quickly denied. Even the Grand Supreme Elder who went with me didn't mention it. He rushed back all the way. Sect Master, this is a very important matter. I suggest that only the few of us here know about this. Hall Master Zhu immediately turned to Sect Master Wang and took the initiative to suggest finding the Zhao family is not something that can be done in a day. We have to be even more careful when dealing with them. Elderly risked his life to obtain a clue, so we must not reveal it and alert the enemy. Otherwise, if the Zhao family is a cunning rabbit with 3 burrows, it will be even more difficult for us to find the Zhao family. The reason was very good, and the suggestion was very correct. If Elderly hadn't talked to Yang Chun, he wouldn't have noticed any problems with Hall Master Zhu's suggestion. However, right now, Elder Li's heart was filled with anger. This guy's surnamed Zhu. No, this guy should be surnamed Zhao. He was definitely a spy from the Zhao family hidden in the mysterious Heaven sect. It was him. There was no way to escape. Hall Master Zhu would never have expected that his reactions would be predicted by others. He seemed to be following the path that Yang Chun had laid out for him, but he didn't realize that he had become Elder Li's enemy. Elder Li was an old and cunning person. Even though he hated that he couldn't tear Hall Master Zhu's body into 10,000 pieces, his bones and his ashes, his face didn't change in the slightest. Bystanders also couldn't see any change in his mood. Instead, he kept nodding as if he agreed with Hall Master Zhu's suggestion. This suggestion was very appropriate, but with the current power of the mysterious Heaven sect, they really couldn't make it public. This was the mysterious Heaven sect's exclusive information. In the future, the mysterious Heaven sect might have to rely on this information that no one else knew to shine in the fight against the Zhao family. No matter what, they couldn't leak this information. Even if they weren't afraid of the Zhao family escaping, they still had to be wary of the other big sect fighting for the credit. That's how it should be. Sect Master Wang also nodded. The other core higher-ups also agreed. Sect Master Wang also followed the trend and made a decision. Elderly has worked hard this time, so he should get the credit. Sect Master Wang immediately added. Elderly was a capable helper in his own sect. This time, he had risked his life to find this secret information, allowing the mysterious Heaven sect to gain the upper hand in the fight against the Zhao family. His contribution couldn't be buried. No one had any objections to this point. Next, everyone began to discuss how to proceed with the next step, which was to find the Zhao family and kill them. Unfortunately, even though everyone had found a clue, it was still harder than ascending to heaven to complete the rest of the task. However, everything was difficult at the beginning. Since they had found the general location of the Zhao family, there was always a way to solve the later problems. The Zhao family hadn't reacted yet. As long as they could gain the upper hand along the way, the rest would be natural. Elderly was now more and more proud of himself. After making such a contribution, everyone's impression of him was naturally different. Naturally, he had won the support of a portion of the disciples. This was definitely good news for the future. Now, Elderly only had one thing left, and that was to wait for Hall Master Zhu to make his move. As for how and when Hall Master Zhu would make his move, It wasn't difficult to guess. Now, everything was ready, and all that was left was the east wind. Chapter 19:15. It had to be said that people who achieved great things were all extremely patient. Even though he knew that the secret that Elderly discovered had already threatened the safety of the Zhao family, Hall Chief Zhu still did not make any movements under Elder Li's strict supervision. This was extremely admirable. There was no movement for 15 years, and no one could see any flaws. If Elderly hadn't noticed Hall Chief Zhu's abnormality when he first voiced out his guess, Elderly wouldn't have dared to confirm that Hall Chief Zhu was the person he was looking for. Elderly admired Hall Chief Zhu's forbearance, but on the surface, he didn't think much of it. He wanted to see how long this fella could endure for. Could it be even longer than the hundreds of years that he had easily set up? What Elderly didn't expect was that while Hall Chief Zhu did not make any movements, another person that Elderly didn't expect jumped out. Xue Fei, a newly promoted core elder who had replaced another core elder who had been killed by a demon beast. His new responsibility was to manage the sect's storehouse, which was an extremely important role. At the same time, Elder Xue was also an expert in smithing. His standard was extremely high, and it could be said that he was one of the top 3 smithing masters in the sect. There were only 2 people who were better than Elder Xue in smithing, and they were both Grand Supreme Mystic Immortal Elders. Almost 15 years after Elderly voiced out his conjecture, Elder Xue Fei gifted Hall Master Lu of the Law Enforcement Hall a peerless magic treasure. According to Elder Xue Fei, he had only started to conceive of this magic treasure 200 years ago. From then on, the sect's storehouse was filled with the corpses of many Xian immortal-level demon beasts. To cultivators, the corpses of these demon beasts were simply the best materials, be it for medicinal herbs or smithing. Hall Chief Lu had his own natal flying sword that had been used for thousands of years, and it couldn't be replaced. Elder Xue also understood this point, so this magic treasure wasn't specially made for Hall Chief Lu. Strictly speaking, it was made for the Hall Chief of the Hall of Enforcement, and was only given to him to take care of. The magic treasure was a chair that was made from the body parts of hundreds of super powerful demon beasts. It was only successfully made after hundreds of years of meticulous refining by Elder Xue Fei. On the surface, this chair looked very graceful and luxurious. At first glance, it was definitely comfortable to sit on. The reason why he recommended it to Hall Chief Lu was that the chair had 2 functions. The first layer was specially designed for the Law Enforcement Hall. As long as a cultivator who was punished by the Law Enforcement Hall sat on it, the Law Enforcement disciple would activate the Spirit Refinement Array that came with the chair. The Spirit Array would consume the cultivator's whole body's spiritual power, and, at the same time, it would consume more than 90% of the cultivator's spiritual sense. The chair was refined using the body parts of numerous mysterious immortal realm demon beasts that were extremely adept at mental attacks. So it would naturally affect the prisoner's mind and cause the prisoner to fall into a state of hypnosis where his mind was unclear. It could be said that sitting on this chair was equivalent to having one's mind controlled, and one would have to answer all questions without any resistance. What's more, the chair could not only control the prisoner's mind, but it could also make the prisoner feel like he was being tortured. However, in reality, it would not hurt the prisoner's body at all. All the attacks were aimed at the mind. It was definitely a top-grade weapon suitable for the Law Enforcement Hall. The second effect was targeted at the controller. If Hall Chief Lu had nothing to do, he could sit on the chair and cultivate, activating the second function. The chair naturally had an effect that was brought about by the instincts of some kind of demon beast. Within a radius of a few feet around the chair, it would form a cultivation space with spiritual pressure that was at least 50% stronger than the surrounding area. Cultivating on the chair would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. The latter effect was purely an unexpected surprise. Even Elder Xue Fei did not think that it would have such an effect when he was refining it. In the beginning, he only chose to carve the body of the chair from the skull of some kind of demon beast for the sake of the magic treasure's sturdiness. In the end, after the refining was successful, he discovered this heaven-defying effect. Of course, These were all Elder Shui Fei's own words. This chair, which Hall Chief Liu named the Extreme Paradise Platform, had already been tested on a few prisoners, and the effect was truly miraculous. It would answer any question, and even the strongest mysterious immortal expert did not last more than a month. All of them were subdued by this magical chair. As for the spiritual pressure, it was simply too simple. As long as it was activated, any cultivator could easily sense the changes in their cultivation environment. Just by sitting on it for a few days, they would be able to clearly feel the changes. The ability of the Extreme Paradise Platform to control one's mind was simply too heaven-defying. This level of magic treasure could only be controlled by a core member of the upper echelons like Hall Chief Liu. Even Elder Shui Fei, who refined the Extreme Paradise Platform, did not dare to hold it himself, lest the other elders misunderstand. Perhaps this Extreme Paradise Platform could only be controlled by the Sect Master or the Hall Master of the Enforcement Hall. No one else had the qualifications to control it. Elder Shui Fei really managed to forge an amazing magic treasure. Elder Li was currently plotting something big. After taking out the Extreme Paradise Platform, Elder Li's first reaction was that there was a conspiracy. How could there be such a coincidence? He had just found the whereabouts of the Zhao clan, and in just a few years, Elder Shui Fei had already refined such a heaven-defying item. Moreover, he had already started refining it 200 years ago. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? The most coincidental thing was not the mind-controlling chair, but the effect behind it. According to Elder Shui Fei, as long as he used the skull of that kind of demonic beast, he would be able to refine a small cultivation treasure that was 50% stronger than the surrounding spiritual pressure at any time and place. This was exactly the same as when Elder Li wanted the Sect Master to increase his cultivation and transcend his tribulation. What was even more coincidental was that there were very few of those demonic beasts, and they were very rare. Over the past hundreds of years, the mysterious Heaven Sect had only managed to obtain a few of them by chance. If one skull was used to refine a chair, including the Extreme Paradise Platform and the Enforcement Hall, it would only be enough for 5 people. Of course, such a good thing would be given to the core higher-ups with the Sect Master as the leader. The others didn't even need to think about getting such a good thing. Even the refiner himself, Elder Shui, was ranked at the back because he was a newly promoted core elder who had passed away. He had to wait until the veteran core higher-ups like the Sect Master, Elder Li, and Hall Chief Liu were used up before they could get their turn. Hall Chief Zhu hadn't made any moves, but Elder Shui Fei had jumped out just like that. This really surprised Elder Li. Could it be that his and Yang Qin's judgment was wrong? Could it be that Hall Chief Zhu wasn't a spy from the Zhao clan and the real spy was Elder Shui Fei? However, after thinking about it, Elder Li's head was immediately covered in cold sweat. Who said that there could only be one Zhao clan spy in the mysterious Heaven Sect? Perhaps both of them were spies. Chapter 1916. In the eyes of others, Elder Shui's action was completely out of consideration for the mysterious Heaven Sect's higher-ups. It was a normal action after accidentally discovering something good. This kind of action was also very beneficial to him. Firstly, Elder Shui had obtained the favor of the other core higher-ups, which was very beneficial to him as a newcomer who had just entered the core. In addition, since these chairs were prepared for the core higher-ups of the mysterious Heaven Sect, after the older generation ascended, he, as a rising star, would be able to use them. This was another benefit of Shui Fei's plan. From these 2 points of view, Shui Fei was too normal. He was so normal that no one could see any flaws in him. Perhaps the higher-ups would really feel indebted to Elder Shui for obtaining the chairs that Elder Shui had refined. Apart from Elder Li, no one suspected Elder Shui Fei. Just as Elder Li had analyzed before, everyone happily accepted this good thing, including Elder Li himself. On the surface, Elder Li could not suddenly turn hostile at this time. Without any evidence, Elder Li would definitely not make a move. Elder Li didn't believe that there would be any danger in using such an item that was sent out in the open. He tested it while cultivating, and it was just as Elder Shui had described. This chair which only had the ability to increase spiritual pressure and had no other functions, was really a pleasant surprise when used for cultivation. Even in the secret pavilion at the core of the mysterious Heaven sect, where the spiritual pressure was several times higher than outside, using this chair, which Elder Shui had called the Lotus Seat, still had the same effect. No matter how much spiritual pressure was outside, it was really magical. Cultivating under the powerful spiritual pressure was several times better than cultivating in an ordinary environment. Everyone was full of praise. However, the more it was like this, the more uneasy Elderly felt. Since it was related to his future sect master plan, Elderly could no longer hold it in. He found a random reason and went out to train again. Throughout the entire spiritual realm, there was only one person who could discuss with Elderly and give him suitable advice on this matter: Yang Chun. When Elderly, who had disguised himself, came to the mountain gate of Chunyang Palace and cast the incantation that Yang Chun told him, in a flash, he immediately came to a palace with a surprisingly large spiritual pressure. "Greetings, Master Ancestor." Yang Chun appeared almost directly in the next moment, and when he saw Elderly, he immediately bowed. "What is this place?" Elderly was not surprised that Yang Chun could recognize him in disguise at a glance. What he was surprised about was how Chunyang Palace, a small sect that had been established in the spiritual world for less than 1,000 years, could have such an excellent place for cultivation with such great spiritual pressure. This is the core of the Chunyang Palace. Generally, only the head of the palace, several elders, and disciples can enter. Yang Chun quickly explained, it took at least half of the wealth that Chunyang Palace obtained in this devil tribulation to build this place. Such an important place in the sect. You can rest assured to let me in? Elderly smiled and nodded. After looking around, he asked, no matter how important it is, as long as Grandmaster wants to come in, you can come in at any time. Yang Chun directly gave Elderly an answer that made him very comfortable. Elderly was really happy. This disciple of Yang Chun, even in a confidential core place like Chunyang Palace, did not avoid him, indicating that he was really loyal to the Xintian sect. However, Elderly also heard that Yang Chun only said that Elderly was alone and did not bring other core members of the Xintian sect. This obvious difference was the reason why Elderly was really happy. After just a few glances, Elderly had no desire to look any further. Although the place was good and seemed to be a cultivation treasure land that cost a lot of money to build, it paled in comparison to the layout of the Xintian sect. For people who were used to sitting in the throne room, it was refreshing to see a rich family's hall, but it would be a joke to say that they were really tempted. Elderly was scanning the core secrets of Chunyang Palace, and Yang Chun was also staring at Elderly. It seemed that in this short period of time, Yang Chun had noticed something. He frowned slightly and then immediately let go, as if nothing had happened. How could this kind of movement escape the Sky Immortal Elder Li's notice? He immediately noticed Yang Chun's strange movement. After sitting quietly on the main seat, he watched Yang Chun personally serve the fragrant tea and wine. After tasting the tea, he opened his mouth. "What, is there something wrong?" Elderly did not raise his head when he spoke. He kept looking down at the teacup in his hand. After he finished speaking, he even blew on the tea foam that had just appeared in the teacup. His actions made it seem like he was the owner of this place. Disciple just noticed that there was a strange aura on Grandmaster's body. I didn't dare to try to figure it out, so I felt it was strange. Yang Chun did not hide anything and said what he found. He did not exaggerate or make wild guesses and reported truthfully. Strange aura? What's strange about it? Elderly sat up straight and asked with a smile. Grandmaster, please allow me to report. Yang Chun bowed slightly again and said, Disciple has a few good items from the Dragon Clan. I believe Grandmaster knows about them. Elderly nodded his head. Every pill produced by Yang Chun had a clear dragon-shaped pill pattern, not to mention anything else. Just that alchemy furnace was definitely related to the Dragon Clan. Moreover, others might not know, but the Murong sisters' life-bonded magic treasures were from the Dragon Clan. This could not be hidden from the higher-ups of the Five Elements sect. Naturally, the higher-ups of the Xintian sect had also heard about it. However, What did the Dragon Clan's items have to do with the strange aura that Yang Chun found? This was what Elderly did not understand. However, he knew that Yang Chun would not keep him in suspense, so he held back his questions and waited for Yang Chen's answer. Grandmaster's body has a trace of dragon qi. As expected, Yang Chun did not hesitate at all and directly said, "Perhaps it's because of the Dragon Clan's magic treasure?" Dragon Clan's magic treasure? I don't think so. Elderly shook his head. Although he had obtained a lot of good items over the years, he had never gotten his hands on a Dragon Clan magic treasure. How did this come about? It's not a pure Dragon Clan magic treasure. It's a lesser dragon. Yang Chun immediately explained. He glanced at Elderly's expression and seemed to be hesitating whether or not to say it. Elderly was old and experienced. He immediately understood what Yang Chun meant with that glance. He snorted and said, "If you have something to say, then say it. Don't hesitate. Please forgive disciple for being presumptuous." Yang Chun seemed to be making up his mind. He gritted his teeth and said, "Grandmaster, this kind of Dragon Clan magic treasure with evil chi, it's best if you don't use it too much. It's best if you don't carry it with you." Chapter 1917. The depth of Yang Chen's knowledge, others did not know, but Elderly was very clear. When he knew that Yang Chun came out of the Immortal Executioner's platform, he understood that Yang Chun must know something that the cultivators of the mortal spiritual world did not know. So, when Yang Chun said this, Elder Lee's face changed on the spot. Not because of anger, but because of fear. When did he have a Dragon Clan magic weapon with evil spirit? How come he didn't know? But in the next moment, Elder Lee suddenly realized that among the things he had recently received, there was only one, the lotus seat that Elder Shui gave him. Could it be that thing? Suspicion was suspicion, but Elderly did not directly take out the lotus seat for Yang Chen to check, but took out a bunch of things. After all, the identity of Elder Shui was not a trivial matter, and he could not let Yang Chen doubt it for no reason. "These are all the things I got recently. What do you think it is?" Elder Lee's face did not have an expression of distrust of Yang Chen's judgment, but said very kindly, "There are always gains from time to time over the years, and sometimes there is no time to check it carefully. Master Ancestor has racked his brains for the sect and has to deal with thousands of affairs every day. This kind of small thing is naturally too busy to take care of." After Yang Chun flattered Elderly a little, he began to check one by one. It was said to be checking, but in fact, it was picking it up and putting it down. For Yang Chun, it was too simple to judge which thing it was. As long as Yang Chun got it, he would know. The Dragon Clan's things had a natural attraction for Xiao Tian, and he could judge it from a close distance. After pretending to pick it up, Yang Chun took out the lotus seat, put it aside alone, and then continued to check the next things. Looking at Yang Chun actually picked out the lotus seat so accurately, Elder Lee's heart had already made a conclusion, but his face still did not change at all, quietly watching Yang Chen's movements. Yang Chun diligently inspected all of the treasures that Elder Lee had taken out. Only then did he turn around and pick up the lotus seat to inspect it once more. Very confidently, he said to Elder Lee, "Grandmaster, this is it. Are you sure?" Elder Lee asked cautiously. Disciple is very sure. Yang Chun nodded again. "This thing has a deeply hidden evil aura. There shouldn't be any effect in the short term, but it's not a good thing to be in contact with it for a long time. This is something that the sect's Elder Shui personally picked out from the sect's warehouse to carefully craft." Elderly looked into Yang Chen's eyes and said very seriously, "Not only do I have it, even Sect Master Lu and the other two elders have it. Are you sure there's something wrong with this thing? There must be something wrong with it." Yang Chun frowned as he listened to Elder Lee's words. Where did this Elder Shui come from? However, this was not important. What was important was that this person did not seem to have good intentions towards the higher-ups of the mysterious Heaven sect. Was it the Zhao family or someone else? "Why do you think so?" Elder Lee asked very carefully. He had to cover all aspects. This matter was very important, so Elderly did not dare to easily trust Yang Chen's judgment. Although he already believed 80% of it, he still had to ask for more details. "The materials are wrong." Yang Chun shook his head and said, "Disciple doesn't know how the sect found this kind of material, and there's so much of it. It's definitely not normal." What was this made from? Elderly asked with a frown. It should be the bones of a type of mirage dragon. This time, Yang Chun was not very certain. He only gave a general idea. There was a similar expert sealed in the Zhao family who was famous for creating illusions. The feeling is very similar, but the aura on it is even more evil than the living expert. Something else must have been added. The similar expert sealed in the Zhao family was naturally Elder High. Elderly knew that such an expert existed. After listening to Yang Chen's words, Elder Li's mind began to work like crazy. The sect has this kind of material because the experts of the sect brought it back after killing demonic beasts. Elder Li answered Yang Chen's previous question while thinking about what the problem was. This is the problem. Yang Chen couldn't help but sigh. What's the problem here? Elder Li became more and more confused. Wasn't it normal to find a few demonic beasts like this in a sea of demonic beasts? Disciple has been paying attention to the materials of some demonic beasts for alchemy. Yang Chen explained in detail. The Sunset Rock Wanbao Tower is the largest place to trade demonic beast materials. I have seen almost all demonic beasts, but I have never seen anyone kill a demonic beast like this. As soon as Yang Chen said this, Elderly realized that there was a big problem. Elderly knew the reputation of the Wanbao Tower too well. If the demonic beasts that the Wanbao Tower dealt with didn't have the materials of these demonic beasts, then Elder Shui's claim that he found the materials in the sect's warehouse was a little unreliable. Perhaps this disciple is ignorant. Yang Chen still shook his head and said with a little pessimistic, Grandmaster, maybe you can ask the other sect and see if they have similar demonic beasts in their sect. This problem was actually very easy to investigate. As long as Elderly relied on his personal relationship with a few of his good friends in the super sect, he could ask if those sect had such materials. It wasn't a big deal, and he could easily get the answer. As soon as he thought of this simple verification method, Elder Li's original 80% trust in Yang Chen became 95%. Yang Chen wouldn't lie to him with an unreliable rumor. Also, none of the big sect would give Yang Chen face to the point where they would work together to lie to a core elder of the mysterious heaven sect. Elder Li was silent for a while and asked, if it is used for a long time, what kind of trouble will there be? The person sitting in this chair will feel that everything is an illusion, including their own feelings. It might even make them feel that their cultivation has greatly increased. Although Yang Chen didn't dare to speak with an unusually confident tone, the content of his words shocked Elderly. If this continues for a long time, the cultivator using the chair will unknowingly be hypnotized by some kind of consciousness in the chair. Others will look normal, but the cultivator will be silently controlled and become a living puppet. Hiss! Elderly sucked in a breath of cold air. If that was the case, then it would be a disaster. He had used this lotus seat to cultivate a few times. It was so dangerous. You can't speak carelessly about this. Elderly couldn't help but remind Yang Chen. Yang Chen, you have to think carefully. Slandering Elder Shui without any evidence is not a small problem. Chapter 1918. Although that was what he said, when Elderly recalled that the 50% increase in spiritual pressure he felt was actually an illusion, Elderly felt a chill run down his spine. Could it be that he had always been cultivating in such an environment? It's easy to verify it. Yang Chen lowered his head and pondered for a while, then raised his head and said, how do we verify it? Elderly suddenly became spirited and asked quickly, it's naturally not that easy to affect people of your cultivation, Grandmaster. It's not something that can be done in a short period of time either. Yang Chen slowly said, but if this cultivator's cultivation level is very low, I'm afraid we'll find the problem after a few tries. How low is the cultivation level needed? Elderly now understood. If it wasn't for Yang Chen's reminder, this kind of magic treasure would definitely only be used by the higher-ups of the mysterious heaven sect. It was impossible for cultivators with low cultivation levels to come into contact with it. Elder Shui Fei really took everything into consideration. The lower, the better. Yang Chen couldn't give a specific realm. After all, he didn't refine it himself, so he didn't have a specific feeling. Or, we can find a person with a very low cultivation level among the natives to try. This matter was simple. It wasn't difficult for Elder Li or Yang Chun. Elder Li was eager to know the effect. Without saying anything, he left Xunyang Palace with Yang Chun and went straight to the settlement of the natives. There was such a settlement near the gate of the Pure Yang Palace, and a number of indigenous people living there was not small. The natives of the spiritual realm were born with late gold core stage or even early nascent soul stage. However, in order to find someone with a lower cultivation level to test, the two of them looked for the person with the lowest cultivation level among the large group of natives. Soon, the two of them found a suitable target. Elderly didn't say anything and directly took the person away. A Heaven Immortal expert took away an early gold core stage native, and the people around didn't even notice. Originally, Elderly wanted to start experimenting immediately, but Yang Chun was more cautious and suggested that Elderly find a few more people to try. Elderly did not worry about him. After finding 4 natives of the early Jiedan stage, the two of them quickly left this area. There were too many cultivators gathered in Linyang River, so it wasn't appropriate to stay here. Elderly waved his hand, and the two of them headed straight for Sheeping Mountain. Near the courtyard of the Sheeping Mountain's mysterious heaven sect, Elderly led them into a seemingly ordinary house. As soon as he entered, Yang Chun discovered that there was another world inside. There was no need to ask. This was definitely Elderly's arrangement in the Black Heaven Gate. In this regard, Yang Chun had no interest in asking at all. He directly released 4 natives of the early stage of the Gold Core realm and then let them sit on the lotus seat and begin to cultivate. Along the way, Yang Chun had already given the 4 native cultivators some basic cultivation knowledge. All 4 of them felt as though they had just received a priceless treasure. They believed that the ascendant Immortal had taken a liking to them. When they heard that Elderly wanted them to take turns to sit on the lotus seat to cultivate, they hurriedly agreed. They were indescribably respectful. When the 4 of them cultivated one by one, Yang Chun and Elderly moved a distance away from the lotus seat. According to Yang Chun's suggestion, they retreated at least 100 feet away. The 4 of them said that they were afraid of disturbing their cultivation, so they just watched from 100 feet away with their naked eyes. They didn't even use their spiritual sense. It seemed that nothing was out of the ordinary. When the first native sat on the lotus seat, there was a clear look of surprise on his face. Needless to say, he must have noticed the change in the surrounding spiritual pressure. Seeing that the 4 of them took turns to cultivate, they didn't show any abnormalities. Yang Chun was not in a hurry. If they showed any abnormalities the moment they came up, then this magic treasure would be too easy to see through. On the other hand, Elderly was a little anxious. He kept staring at the 4 of them and kept urging them to cultivate. He didn't know if it was because the 4 native cultivators discovered that the spiritual pressure had increased and became overflowing with confidence. The cultivation of the 4 of them was simply smooth sailing. They even surpassed the cultivation speed of ordinary people. This made Yang Chun and Elderly, who had been watching from the outside, dumbfounded. Looking at such a result, if it wasn't for Yang Chun stopping Elderly from approaching the lotus seat, maybe Elderly would have observed the cultivation of the 4 people at a close distance. As if to prove the miracle of the lotus seat, in just half a year, the 4 native cultivators of the early Jiedan stage, who were congenitally deficient, actually cultivated to the middle Jiedan stage under the eyes of Yang Chun and Elderly. Of course, it was because they didn't know how long they had been accumulating in the early stage. However, this cultivation speed still made Yang Chun feel a little inferior when he regained his cultivation. For half a year, the 4 of them didn't show any abnormalities, which made Elderly a little impatient. If it wasn't for Yang Chun taking the risk of making Elderly angry and stopping him, Elderly really couldn't help but carefully look at the changes in the 4 people. Just as Elderly was about to lose his patience, one of the 4 natives finally displayed a trace of abnormality. The native who showed abnormalities was the one with the lowest cultivation among the 4. His innate foundation was the worst, so he was also the most affected. At the beginning, Yang Chun and Elderly just thought that he was immersed in cultivation and cultivating very hard. However, soon the 2 of them discovered that this native actually showed a trace of dullness, which was very abnormal. It was common for cultivators to be immersed in cultivation, but they wouldn't be so slow to react. This guy, who looked very smart, actually showed some dullness, and the symptoms were getting more and more obvious. After another 2 months of observation, the remaining 3 also began to show the same dullness. As for the first guy, other than cultivating, he didn't seem to have any reaction to the outside world. If it was only one person, it could be explained as cultivating too quickly and going crazy, but all 4 of them showed the same behavior. It was a little too unbelievable to say that it was a coincidence. The 2 of them didn't give up and continued to observe. After a year, the 4 of them had completely turned into walking corpses that only knew how to cultivate. They also didn't follow the order of taking turns. All of them sat around the lotus seat, completely turning into 4 cultivation maniacs, not moving at all. If it wasn't for the fact that the 4 of them were breathing normally, Elderly would have thought that the 4 of them were dead. Seeing the 4 of them all become like this, Elderly directly broke out in cold sweat. If he continued to cultivate on the lotus seat, would he end up like this? The real straw that broke Elderly's back was that he didn't know where he got the news. The moment he received the news, Elderly's face became abnormally ugly. "Yang Chun, I'm afraid you're right," Elderly said with some lingering fear. "Among the 5 Tao sects, other than our mysterious heaven sect, the other sect have never killed this kind of demon beast. In addition, the demon sect and the demon race also received news that their experts have never encountered this kind of demon beast." Chapter 1919. If it was just one demon beast, everyone would think that the person who encountered the demon beast was extremely lucky and had heaven-defying luck. This was very normal. Or in another situation, a cultivator stepped on top-quality dog poop, bumped into a nest, and spent a lot of effort to take them all down. Although this sounded ridiculous, it was not impossible to explain. The problem was that the skulls used to refine the 4 lotus seats and the bliss platform all came from the mysterious heaven sect. Moreover, they were killed by 5 different disciples. This made people's imagination run wild. Why was the mysterious heaven sect's luck so heaven-defying? 5 demon beasts that other cultivators had never seen before were all found by the disciples of the mysterious heaven sect? If the 5 monstrous beasts were at the same location, perhaps there would be a slight possibility of explanation. However, the 5 disciples who had killed the 5 monstrous beasts had clearly obtained the spoils of war at different times and different locations. The probability of this happening was comparable to a golden pie falling from the sky for no reason. Moreover, it was a series of them falling into one person's mouth. Any normal person would be able to sense that something was amiss, not to mention Elderly, who had long since swum through countless schemes and plots. Yang Chun didn't know when Elderly had issued the order to investigate, but he didn't care. He just quietly waited for Elderly's instructions. Elderly now completely believed Yang Chen's words. When he arrived at Sheeping Mountain, Elderly had already secretly sent out a message to his confidant to start investigating the whole matter. As Yang Chun expected, all the luck in the world gathered on the 5 mysterious heaven sect disciples. After finding 5 demon beasts of this level in different places, they were able to escape unscathed and even brought back the corpses of the demon beasts. Elderly hadn't personally experienced Elder Hai's power, but it wasn't like Yin Yang Demon School didn't have any informants. He just had to ask around to find out that when Elder Hai was still sealed, he had already bewitched tens of thousands of Devil Sect disciples. There were even a few Heaven Immortal experts among them. If this was the case when he was sealed, then one could imagine how powerful he was after he was unsealed. 4 or 5 ordinary Heaven Immortal disciples of the Black Heaven sect to be able to survive a one-on-one encounter with such a powerful expert, it was obvious that something was amiss. As for being able to bring back the corpses of demonic beasts, it could only be said that these guys had underestimated the mysterious Heaven sect. However, Elderly had to admit that if it wasn't for Yang Chen's reminder, no one in the mysterious Heaven sect would have thought that there was a problem. It was a big sect with 500,000 members, and it was a time when all parties were working together to recover their lost land. Who would care if there was anything wrong with a few ordinary-looking demonic beasts? It was normal for a few cultivators to kill a few monstrous beasts in the midst of a tide of monstrous beasts. Now, everything had proven that what Yangchen said was true. Elderly naturally wouldn't allow himself and the sect master to be plotted against. It was one thing for him to want to be the sect leader, but Elderly had never thought of getting rid of sect leader Wang. At most, he just wanted the sect leader to ascend earlier. Now, Shuefei had already touched Elder Li's bottom line. Not only did he want to harm the 5 higher-ups of the mysterious heaven sect, but he also wanted to indirectly control the 5 of them. If this could be tolerated, what could not be tolerated? How could such a good foundation fall into the hands of a brat? Ancestor, the disciples of the other sect have never encountered this kind of demonic beast. The only similar expert that has appeared is the one who has unsealed the seal. Yangchen calmly expressed his opinion. At the very least, those 5 fellows who brought back the corpses of the demonic beasts, there is an 80% chance that they are from the Zhao family. Yangchen had not yet said his judgment, but Elderly had already said it in front of him. I have already sent people to secretly stare at these 5 guys. When I go back, I will send them to Hall Master Lu. Speaking up to this point, Elderly seemed to have thought of something amusing. He suddenly laughed. I want to see if these guys can withstand the blissful platform that Shuefei took the initiative to give a Hall Chief Lu. Yangchen already knew what the blissful platform was from Elderly's mouth. Hearing Elderly's words, Yangchen looked at the extremely proud Elderly and could only slightly shake his head. Ancestor, please forgive this disciple for being presumptuous. I'm afraid that if this extreme happiness platform was really made by the Zhao family, it would be useless to the Zhao family. If Shuefei was really from the Zhao family, how could he let the extreme happiness platform target the Zhao family? Not to mention anything else. As long as Hall Master Lu was ruthless and had every mysterious heaven sect disciple sit on the extreme happiness platform and ask if they were from the Zhao family, wouldn't the Zhao family's arrangements be ruined? The biggest possibility was that there was a secret method to let the extreme happiness platform know that they were from the Zhao family, so they wouldn't attack the Zhao family. Elderly also thought of this problem, and the little bit of good mood that he had with great difficulty was instantly destroyed. He originally wanted to see Shuefei's expression of going for wool and coming home shorn, but he probably didn't have the chance now. Ancestor, it's better for Hall Master Lu to use the extreme happiness platform less. Yangchen then added, I presume Ancestor doesn't want to see anything happen to Hall Master Lu, right? Ancestor's eyes are sharp, and you discovered Shuefei's plot. You turned the tide and saved the sect master and the elders from death. This is definitely a great merit. Thinking of this, Elderly's mood suddenly became a little better. If this news spread, whether it was Sect Master Wang, Hall Master Lu, or the other 2 elders, it would all be a great favor. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was a life-saving favor. For the mysterious heaven sect, it would be a great merit. What Yangchen said was right. More importantly, from what Yangchen said, this great merit belonged to him. Elderly. Yangchen had no intention of fighting for it all. Was there a more considerate disciple than Yangchen? This is your merit. I will report it to the sect master. After all, Elderly wasn't thick-skinned enough to steal his disciple's great merit, so he directly said this. Ancestor, you're wrong. Yangchen directly refused. At this time, we need Ancestor to do us a favor. Even if I accept this merit, there won't be any substantial benefits. On the contrary, it will be more convenient for Ancestor to receive the gratitude of the elders in the future. After saying this, he waited for Elderly to think for a moment before Yangchen smiled and said, Besides, as long as Ancestor becomes the sect master, would I be afraid that Ancestor will forget about me? Rather than accepting Sect Master Wang's praise, I would rather accept Sect Master Li's reward. Chapter 1920. Yangchen's words simply touched the bottom of Elder Li's heart. People who listened to it felt warm all over, and they couldn't help but have a feeling of ease and ease of mind. Good, good. Elder Li gently patted Yangchen's shoulder and said the word good twice. Then he didn't say anything more. Some words could be kept in the heart, and there was no need to say it out loud. Basically, Elderly already had a plan on how to deal with this matter. Now he was just waiting for the right time. Of course, there was also a premise, which was to send Yang Chen away first. This was Sheeping Mountain, and it was not good for outsiders to see Yang Chen here. Yang Chen, of course, was happy to hide in the distance and watch the show. He cooperated with Elder Li and left Sheeping Mountain, returned to Yang Palace, and waited for the show to start. This thing would not happen in a short time. At least, it would be like the two of them watching the four Aborigines. They had to wait for a period of time to let Sect Master Wang and Home Master Lu see the actual effect, so Yang Chen was not in a hurry. Just as he rushed back to Chunyang Palace, he found that several friends he hadn't seen for a long time had returned to Chunyang Palace. The first to bear the brunt was Lan Ning. As soon as this shrewd female goblin heard that Yang Chen was back, she immediately rushed to Yang Chen's side. Regardless of Yang Chen's dusty journey, she directly sat in front of Yang Chen and angrily asked, "Yang Chen, are you going to take care of this matter?" Yang Chen had just come back, and he was still hiding his tracks on the road. He was afraid that people would know his relationship with Elderly, and he had been avoiding people. How could he know what had happened? Lan Ying's question made Yang Chen scratching his head in confusion. "Big sister, what happened to make you so angry?" Lan Ying was very angry at first glance, and Yang Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly. If he was to be in charge, he should at least know what it was, right? That bastard from the Xintian sect dares to bully the people of our Chunyang Palace like this. I'm going to kill him. Do you have any problem with that? Lan Ying's anger was bigger than ever, and she looked a little hysterical. This made Yang Chen very surprised. How big a thing could make Lan Ying angry like this? And it was related to the mysterious Heaven sect? Let me do it. Another familiar voice sounded from the side. Elder Wu Xiong's figure also appeared in front of Yang Chen. "Long time no see, Elder Wu. You've worked hard." Yang Chen hurriedly stood up to greet Elder Wu. After Elder Wu sat down, he politely filled his cup and presented it to Elder Wu with both hands. Yang Chen had always been very respectful towards Elder Wu Xiong, not concealing it all. Without waiting for Elder Wu Xiong to take the wine cup, Lan Ying snatched it from the side and grabbed Yang Chen's wine cup. She drank it in one gulp and then slammed the wine cup on the table. She coldly snorted at Elder Wu Xiong. "Umph! Big sister, calm down." Yang Chen smiled bitterly again. This time, not only Yang Chen, but even Elder Wu also smiled bitterly. Pressing Lan Ying to sit down at the table, then Yang Chen, regardless of anything, gave her a stall of Jade Dragon wine and blocked her mouth. Then he took a new wine glass and filled it up again for Elder Wu to hand it over. Yang Chen also took out a small wine cup and began to drink with the two. Lan Ying's drinking was directly poured. Even if Yang Chen took out the strongest Jade Dragon wine, she didn't have the slightest intention of tasting it. She kept pouring it down without saying a word. Wanbao Tower has had something happen recently. Elder Wu began to speak with a bitter smile. Since more than 100 years ago, Profound Heaven Sect and some other sect seemed to be dissatisfied with my Wanbao Tower's control of most of the monster business. Everyone has some competition in the Sunset Rock. It was natural to have competition in business, and Yang Chen was not surprised at all. Not to mention Profound Heaven Sect. Even if the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud Sect were on good terms with Chunyang Palace, when it came to the interests of their own sect, they would definitely stand on their own side. The business world was like a battlefield. Yang Chen didn't know who said this, but it was quite accurate. Peers were enemies. Wanbao Tower monopolized the business, and others naturally had other ideas. This was the case with the shopkeeper of Profound Heaven Sect. Since more than 100 years ago, the sect of Profound Heaven Sect began to slowly compete with Wanbao Tower. Although they were not yet at each other's throats, limited competition was inevitable. The monster corpses were such a big thing. How could Yang Chen let go of it? All parties competed for the business of the monster corpses, and in this regard, the Wanbao Tower of Chunyang Palace had the upper hand. Yang Chen's reputation, coupled with the reputation of Wanbao Tower, made the business of the other firms flourish. There was prosperity, and there was decline. The business of Wanbao Tower was booming, and the business of other firms was naturally affected. As a matter of fact, Wanbao Tower was almost the only one, which naturally caused the dissatisfaction and covetousness of other sect firms. Although all parties owed Chunyang Palace a favor for the demonic tribulation, business was business. It had made Wanbao Tower glorious for hundreds of years, and even helped Chunyang Palace capture and kill the master of the Zhao family, who destroyed the mountain gate of Chunyang Palace. Some businesses began to compete with a tough attitude. If it was just a normal business competition, it didn't matter. But the trouble now was that some people felt that Wanbao Tower did not have such a strong background, and they intended to bully others. Starting more than 100 years ago, a firm of profound heaven sect began to constantly suppress Wanbao Tower. However, at the beginning, it was still a normal business competition, and Elder Wu felt that there was nothing wrong with it. Everyone competed with their own ability. However, those people later began to use some tough means to create friction and even began to hurt people. This time, Lan Ning was so angry because a former friend of hers, who was also a powerful member of Wanbao Tower, was seriously injured after a conflict created by a very immortal disciple of profound heaven sect. Elder Wu did not make things big, but returned to Chunyang Palace to discuss ways to deal with it. Lan Ning could no longer bear it. If it weren't for Yang Chun coming back, maybe she would have gone alone to find trouble with the disciple of profound heaven sect. Is a shopkeeper of profound heaven sect a direct descendant of their newly promoted great elder Xue Fei? Yang Chun patiently listened to Lan Ning and Elder Wu's words and asked, "The guy who hurt people is also one of them?" "Yes," Lan Ning answered in front of Elder Wu and asked provocatively, "How about it? Do you dare to provoke him?" Yang Chun couldn't help but almost laugh out loud. It was really a case of not hitting the diligent, not hitting the lazy, but hitting the blind. At this time, Xue Fei's force still dared to do such a thing. It was simply sending themselves to the door to be beaten. "What do you want?" Yang Chun asked with a smile. "Which part of his body do you want? Or his head? Or let the guy who did it kneel in front of me and let him be dealt with?" Chapter 1921. On the surface, Profound Heaven Sect was very tolerant of Chunyang Palace, but everyone knew that in fact, in their bones, it was not known how many disciples of Profound Heaven Sect wanted to destroy Chunyang Palace and kill Yang Chun. It was only because on the surface, the cultivators were working together that they did not dare to make a move blatantly. Lan Ning was very angry. In fact, she also knew that even if she was angry, she could only get angry. Her own cultivation base was only in the late Earth Immortal stage. If it was a one-on-one fight, she would definitely not be able to beat the master of Profound Heaven Sect. Even so, Lan Ning did not intend to retreat. For so many years, Lan Ning had never flinched even in the face of a powerful enemy. At most, she would run away if she couldn't beat them, and then she would plot and pester them. She didn't know how many opponents with a higher cultivation base had been turned over by this method. She thought that this time it would be the same. The sect would not come forward, and Yang Chun would not come forward. Even if he came forward, it was estimated that there would be no good effect. Yang Chun had a great face, and many people were optimistic about Yang Chun, but the opponent was a disciple of Profound Heaven Sect, and also a disciple of Heaven Immortal level. Against Chunyang Palace, there was also a great elder of Profound Heaven Sect behind him. The two were not on the same level at all, and there was no comparison. However, Yang Chun's words made Lan Ning surprised. It was absolutely beyond her imagination. What did he mean by wanting the other party's parts? Could it be the head? This was not the most exaggerated thing. The most exaggerated thing was to let the other party kneel in front of her. If this was not a joke from Yang Chun, then Lan Ning must have an auditory hallucination. How could this kind of incredible words be said by a normal person? It was definitely an auditory hallucination. Elder Wu Xiong, as well as the palace master who had just come to discuss with Yang Chun, also had an auditory hallucination. Yang Chun was such a steady disciple that he would never say something so out of tune. There must be something wrong with what they heard. The grudge between Yang Chun and Profound Heaven Sect was not something that happened in a day or two. Disregarding the mortal plane, just the moment he arrived in the spiritual plane, he had killed off their young master, Yi Xian. If it weren't for the fact that several heavenly immortal experts from profound heaven sect needed Yang Chen's longevity, extending pill, and 100-year pill back then, profound heaven sect would have fallen out with him long ago. Although it was still within the scope of the agreement reached between Chunyang Palace and Shintian sect to protect Chunyang Palace for thousands of years, that was only the guarantee of some people. At that time, several of the core executives who had agreed had already died. This time, it was the direct subordinates of the newly appointed First Elder Shui Fei who had caused trouble to Chunyang Palace. The weakest of the opponent's cultivation level was at least at the Heaven Immortal level. Needless to say, a great elder of the Black Heaven sect was definitely 10 times stronger than dozens of ordinary first-rate sect. Even if Chunyang Palace came out in full force, how many points could they fight against the other party? To let the celestial immortal masters of the profound heaven sect be at their disposal. Not to mention the pure Yang Palace. Even the other 4 Dao sects that belonged to the super sects did not dare to boast like this. Are you serious? Lan Ying, who was still angry like an erupting volcano, suddenly turned into a little girl with a little anxiety. She asked Yang Chun uneasily, with an expression of disbelief on her face. Yang Chun did not answer this question, but nodded heavily. This time, everyone saw it clearly. Everyone looked at each other and finally determined that this was not an illusion, but Yang Chun really said so. Yang Chun, the palace master hurriedly called out to Yang Chun. He did not say the following words, but he believed that everyone could guess what it was. Don't worry, palace master. This disciple knows what he is talking about. Yang Chun respectfully replied to the palace master, then turned back to Lan Ying and asked with a smile, Big sister Lan Ying, are you satisfied with this? If you can really do it, I will be satisfied. Lan Ying herself was a bold guy. Yang Chun dared to say it himself. What else could she not believe? She immediately became bold. How long will it take to kill that bastard? Give me a few years. Yang Chen's face did not change at all. He quickly replied, there must be a time to arrange it. Besides, gentleman's revenge. 10 years is not too late. Good. Lan Ying clapped her hands and agreed. She turned around and walked away without stopping. Take this. Yang Chun hurriedly stopped Lan Ying and threw her a jade bottle. Inside was the 6th grade merit Ganoderma mushroom jade pill, a life-saving medicine. With this, he believed that the disciple of the Wanbao Tower who was seriously injured could recover quickly. Lan Ying took the medicinal pills and walked away, leaving behind a group of elders who were steady in handling things. Looking at Yang Chun, they were stunned and did not know what to say. Don't worry, palace master. Yang Chun spoke again, giving the palace master a reassuring pill, and then said to Elder Wu Xiong, Elder Wu, don't worry about anything. Wanbao Tower should do what they should do. The head of the palace and Elder Wu Xiong nodded. They didn't know where Yang Chun was so sure of himself. However, one thing was clear. Yang Chun in front of them had never said anything in front of them. He was not the kind of frivolous person who didn't know what was good or bad. Since he said that he could do it, then everyone believed that he could do it. This was the most profound impression that Yang Chun had left on everyone along the way from the mortal world to the spiritual world. Yang Chun and Elder Wu Xiong went together to see the disciple who was seriously injured in the Wanbao Tower. Lan Ying had already given him the medicinal pill given by Yang Chun. He was recovering rapidly, and his life was no longer in danger. After encouraging him, Yang Chun returned to his own small courtyard in the sect alone. In the eyes of others, Yang Chun entered his own small courtyard and never came out, let alone making any arrangements for this. They couldn't even see his shadow. If everyone didn't have confidence in Yang Chun, they might suspect that Yang Chun was simply escaping. In the Dragon Palace, Yang Chun didn't actually do anything. He just simply cultivated and then refined some medicinal pills. Shui Fei, the newly promoted Great Elder, was a little too eager to expand his influence. He actually dared to make a move on the Wanbao Tower. Perhaps in the view of the profound heaven sect, suppressing Yang Chen's business was a good way to gather people's hearts. Unfortunately, Great Elder Shui Fei chose the wrong time and the wrong direction. He shouldn't have jumped out at this time. Perhaps Elderly had guessed where the Zhao family was and forced Xue Fei to take risks for the Zhao family. But in any case, he was doomed to a tragedy this time. Those who jumped out and wanted to make a move on the Wanbao Tower were destined to become victims with the exposure of Xue Fei. With Elderly taking the lead, Yang Chun didn't need to arrange anything at all. Xue Fei and his henchmen would naturally be eliminated. Chapter 1922. Perhaps the only thing Yang Chen needed to do was to send a letter to Elderly and ask him to send the Heaven Immortal disciple to Chunyang Palace for punishment. With such a small request, not to mention Elderly, who demanded everything from Yang Chen, even Sect Master Wang and Hall Master Lu were willing to use the life of a disobedient disciple to comfort Yang Chen, a loyal disciple. While Yang Chen and Chunyang Palace were watching, Elderly had already begun his own arrangements. The first thing to do was, of course, to gather a few core higher-ups and tell them not to use the Lotus Throne and the Blissful Platform, lest they fall into Xue Fei's trap. With the demonstration of the 4 congenitally deficient natives, it was too easy to expose the danger. As long as they found a few more natives with the same or slightly higher realms, they could easily get the result. It was just that it would take a little longer. This wasn't a problem. As long as the 5 of them didn't use those magic treasures, Xue Fei's arrangements would be in vain. They could afford to wait a few years. Dealing with a newly promoted core elder could not just rely on Elder Li's words to convict Elder Xue Fei of a crime. However, Elder Li didn't want to rely on just exposing the Lotus Throne and the Blissful Platform to achieve his goal. Yang Chun and his speculations, as well as the results of his investigation, were all important evidence. The first to bear the brunt were the materials used to refine these 5 magic treasures. Yang Chen's suspicions were fully magnified here. It was impossible that only the disciples of the Shantian sect were so lucky to get the corpse of this kind of demon beast. No one from the other sect had encountered it. Looking at the entire spiritual realm, there were hundreds of millions of cultivators. Why were only a few disciples of the Shantian sect able to encounter it and escape unscathed? The higher the status of a cultivator, like Sect Master Wang and Elder Li, the more suspicious they were. Elder Li only investigated the Dao sects and those close to the demon sects. Since Sect Master Wang took action, he immediately expanded the scope to the entire spiritual realm. He wanted to see if the Black Heaven sect's luck was so good that it could stand out among hundreds of millions of cultivators. Of course, the investigation couldn't be done under the guise of an investigation. Sect Master Wang's methods were more sophisticated, and he even directly let Xue Fei handle this matter himself. As for the reason, it was naturally to find a few more corpses of similar demonic beasts. While the people of the other sect didn't know about these demonic beasts, they would gather them all and refine a few more sets of such treasures. Elder Xue Fei accepted this order, and without any worries, he happily went to make arrangements for this matter. If the lotus seats could be given to each of the mysterious heaven sect's higher-ups, it would naturally be a great thing. How could Xue Fei let go of such an opportunity? Naturally, other than Elder Xue Fei, Zhang Xian had to investigate the others as well. However, with Sect Master Wang's order to Elder Xue, even if Xue Fei found out that there were people in mysterious heaven sect tracking down these demon beasts, he wouldn't have any suspicions. On the other hand, the original records of the 5 disciples who found the demon beasts were arranged by the elders to do other things for different reasons. At least in the eyes of the other mysterious heaven sect disciples, these people were all sent out. Just when the cultivators were massacring the demonic beasts and recapturing the lost land, it was normal for the 5 of them to leave the sect for a period of time and not return. It was so normal that no one paid any attention to it. In fact, these 5 people had all been captured and sent to Hall Master Lu of the Enforcement Hall. Even without using the Paradise platform, Hall Master Lu had the means to get real information from these people. All these matters were only known to the 5 core executives involved. These 5 people were the 5 oldest core higher-ups of the mysterious heaven sect. Only the 5 of them knew about Yang Chen's identity. The other new core higher-ups, including Xue Fei and Hall Master Zhu of the Medicine Hall, knew nothing about this. The 5 heaven immortal disciples who claimed to have killed the demon beasts and obtained their corpses were locked up by Hallmaster Lu. He asked them to describe in detail the time and place of the demon beast discovery, the process of the battle, the strength of the demon beasts, and so on. After days of repeated interrogations and Hallmaster Lu's methods, after persevering for less than 2 months, the 5 of them finally collapsed and confessed everything. The 5 of them were all members of the Zhao family, but they didn't know each other. Someone gave them the demon beast corpses during the chaos of killing the demon beasts and asked them to bring them back to Chunyang Palace. They didn't need to intervene in other matters, as someone would naturally arrange it. The demon beasts were said to have been killed 200 years ago, but in fact, they were only obtained and returned to the sect's warehouse more than 10 years ago. Then, someone tampered with it, and it became the demon beasts that were killed 200 years ago. Although the 5 people admitted that they were members of the Zhao family, they were all planted among the Taishamen from the mortal world. When they arrived in the spiritual realm, there were people who secretly contacted them. They didn't know where the Zhao family in the spiritual realm was. No matter what method Hallmaster Lu used, there was no way to make them confess. During the interrogation, Hallmaster Lu also used the blissful platform several times. The result was not surprising at all. For these 5 people, the blissful platform was useless at all. If they were replaced by ordinary cultivators, it would simply be a big killing weapon for extorting confessions. From these confessions and the experimental results of Hallmaster Lu, the identity of Xue Fei, the most deeply hidden and highest-ranking spy of the Zhao family, had basically been determined. However, Sect Master Wang and the others still did not directly make a move. They were still observing the situation of the natives who used the lotus seats. This time, the natives they found were not just the guys in the early Jiedan stage who were congenitally deficient, but dozens of natives from the Jiedan stage to the Yuanying stage to the Deshang stage. They took turns to practice on the 4 lotus seats and the blissful platform. Sect Master Wang and the others just wanted to see what kind of harm this thing would have. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they would still feel uneasy. The worst result finally appeared. After everyone waited patiently for 3 years, even the native with the strongest cultivation base of the Deshang stage became muddle-headed and only knew how to cultivate. Looking at the irrefutable fact, the faces of the core members of the 5 people turned blue on the spot. The natives had not gone through the heavenly tribulation and were not really masters of the Deshang stage, so their cultivation time was not long before they were affected. If this thing was placed on the heads of the 5 of them, they believed that in a few hundred years at most, they would become such a puppet. No one was a fool. At this time, they still couldn't see that there must be a way to control this kind of puppet. The idea was actually on the heads of several of their core members. This could be tolerated. What couldn't be tolerated?